Chapter 834. Everyone in the Qin family was very tired recently. How could they not be tired after such a big thing happened? But no matter how tired they were, they had to keep going. However, no matter if it was Qin Sheng, Qin Ran, or Zhao Anji, they all looked the same on the outside. Compared to physical exhaustion, mental exhaustion was the most useless. Zhao Anji, who was more or less tired, was sitting on the sofa with her eyes closed. Qin Jing was very obedient and sensible, massaging his mother's shoulders. Such a big thing happened. Everyone in the Qin family was busy, but she couldn't do anything. This made her feel very helpless. She could only try not to cause any trouble. The connections that Zhao Anji had come into contact with were naturally not something that Qin Sheng could come into contact with. At least in terms of the game against Godfather Liu, Zhao Anji had more advantages. As for Qin Sheng, who did not have any foundation at all, he was obviously powerless. "You're back." Zhao Anji heard movement at the door. She opened her eyes and looked over. Qin Ran put the things in her hands on the sofa, casually, and then sat down next to the aunt. Although Qin Ran was cold and aloof in the eyes of others, or it could be said that she was unapproachable among her peers, in front of the elders, Qin Ran was famous for being a good girl. She knew what to say and what to do. No wonder so many people doted on her. "What's that?" Zhao Anji saw the things on the sofa and asked casually. Qin Ran replied with a smile. "Oh, I wandered with Qin Sheng at Lulikang after dinner, and he picked up 2 things. "Oh, Shenger, you're really good at this. Don't be so eye-catching." Zhao Anji laughed and then asked, "Why did you go there to eat?" Qin Ran looked at Qin Sheng and thought for a moment. Then she said, "Little aunt came to Beijing and wanted to eat Dong Lishun's hot pot. So she found a restaurant near where she lives, so she went there." Since the Qin family was in trouble, Zhao Anji had been actively waiting for the Zhu family's response. But so far, the Zhu family hadn't done anything. She really wanted the Zhu family to help. After all, the Zhu family had deep roots now. As long as they were willing to help the Qin family, the pressure on the Qin family could be said to be instantly reduced. Zhao Anji had never asked Qin Ran or Qin Sheng because she knew very well that it was too difficult to ask the Zhu family for help, given the strained relationship between the Zhu family and the Qin family. Was it because of Qin Sheng and Qin Ran? This was too whimsical. Moreover, the Zhu family's current position was not something that they could easily make a decision on. Pulling one hair would affect the whole body, and the scope of influence was too large. Therefore, there was a reasonable explanation for the Zhu family's inaction. Zhao Anji was not like Qin Sheng and Qin Ran, who had more or less resentment towards the Zhu family. If the Zhu family helped, she would be very grateful to the Zhu family. If the Zhu family did not move, she would not be angry because the Zhu family did not have the obligation to help. "Oh, your aunt came to Beijing," Zhao Anji said lightly, but she did not ask about the rest of the story. Qin Ran nodded silently and waited for the aunt to ask about it in detail. Unexpectedly, the aunt did not say anything. This was somewhat unexpected for Qin Ran and Qin Sheng. They did not expect that the aunt did not care about these things at all. Maybe she was taking a step back in order to advance. After glancing at his sister, Qin Sheng took the initiative to say, "Auntie, the reason why small aunt came to Beijing this time is probably because of our Qin family. Is it appropriate for the Zhu family to make a move now? I don't think the Zhu family would be that impulsive, right? Although our family really needs the Zhu family's help. Don't let the Zhu family get into trouble because of our family's affairs," Zhao Anji said very calmly. Her words made it impossible for others to nitpick. At this time, Qin Jing said very obediently that she still had some work to do, so she went upstairs to do it first. Thus, she tactfully left. When the adults were talking, a child like her couldn't help much. As for the others, they had already left the living room. Qin Sheng explained tactfully, "I don't think it's a fight. Moreover, it's not the right time now. Small Aunt just suggested what we should do at this time. This is not only Small Aunt's idea, but also other people's idea." As for who the others were, although Qin Sheng did not say it out loud, Zhao Anji could naturally understand. At this time, she asked curiously, "What did your small aunt say? What should we do?" Ani said that the Qin family doesn't need to do anything. We just need to wait, Qin Ran said. Hearing the word wait, Zhao Anji was stunned for a few seconds. Then she laughed and said, wait? Did the Zhu family really have nothing to say? With such a big thing happening, are we just going to wait? Until when? When and how long will it take? If we miss the opportunity, not only will we not be able to save your father, but also the Chong and family will have to give up. What should we do at that time? Who will bear this responsibility? Will you go to the Zhu family again? Zhao Anji was very angry. It's okay that you don't want to help, and I can understand your family situation. But can you not do more harm than good? I'm so busy here, running back and forth, and you're telling these two kids to wait? What do you expect me to do then? Qin Sheng said in a low voice, Auntie, I think what Small Aunt said seems to be somewhat reasonable. This time, the Qin family's matter is different from other people's. Other people can do something before the accident happens, but the old man has been taken away for investigation. Some people may be watching. If we make too much noise, it will only make some people feel disgusted. In the end, things will backfire. Besides, if we don't do anything, we can see who is peeping at the interests of the Qin family and the Chong and family. Maybe some people are also waiting. After hearing this, Zhao Anji felt that it was somewhat reasonable, but it depended on whose position and perspective she was standing on. You make it sound so easy, as if they see it very lightly. If they see it clearly, why don't they say what to do? It's just their speculation. Do you want to listen to them? Zhao Anji retorted with a cold smile. Zhu Qingwen and Zhao Anji's positions were different, and the interests they sought might be different. So they looked at the problem from different angles, which was why Zhao Anji was so angry. However, they did not expect that the old woman would react so strongly. When Qin Ran still wanted to say something, Zhao Anji said directly, You don't have to say anything. I know that you are close to the Zhu family. After all, they are all high-ranking officials of the frontier provinces. I am just an old woman without much ability. If you want to wait, just wait. I will continue to do what I should do. At least, as the daughter-in-law of the Qin family, I am worthy of the ancestors of the Qin family. This is your father. Think about it yourself. Qin Ran and Zhao Anji had expected such a result. After that, Zhao Anji said she was a little tired and went straight upstairs to rest. After Zhao Anji left, Qin Sheng and Qin Ran looked at each other and didn't know what to do. Qin Sheng took 2 bottles of water and said helplessly, Aunt may have a problem with the Zhu family. I've already said that this matter can be put aside for now, but you insist on bringing it up. How should we clean up this mess now? What should we do? Qin Ran was at a loss as to what to do. Now that there was an internal conflict, things would become even more complicated. Qin Sheng thought for a while and said, Sister, I still think Small Aunt is right. They may be more considerate than us. No matter how hard we try, we are like headless flies. Are we just fighting for the little benefit of the Chong and system? As Small Aunt said, have we ever thought about whether the Chong and family will still belong to the Qin family if father's thing really gets out of hand? What should we do with Aunt? Qin Ran was more concerned about this matter. Qin Sheng gritted his teeth and said, If we still can't persuade Aunt, there's only one way. What is it? Qin Ran asked curiously. Qin Sheng replied, We can only rely on eldest uncle. I will find a way to contact eldest uncle and ask Small Aunt about this suggestion. If eldest uncle agrees, I will try to persuade Aunt. Maybe this is the best choice. Qin Ran sighed and said, Then we can only do this for now. Zhao Anji was really angry this time. Because of the Zhu family's intervention, Zhao Anji directly left the villa with Qin Jing the next day and lived in the Qin family's house in Diaotai No. 1. She directly and indirectly refused to contact Qin Sheng and Qin Ran, which made Qin Sheng and Qin Ran feel somewhat helpless. Qin Sheng was trying to find a way to contact eldest uncle. He definitely didn't have time to go to Wutai Mountain in person, but he could do it for the He family. The He family originally had spies in Wutai Mountain. However, what Qin Sheng needed to do next was how to be a qualified playboy without crossing the line. It seemed that he was not good at this kind of thing because his character had always been relatively calm and low-key. But others could do it. He was not short of rich playboys he knew, such as Xia Ding. Therefore, as soon as Qin Sheng made a phone call, Xia Ding directly put down everything and rushed from Shanghai to Beijing. By the way, he also tricked Yu Kefi from Nanjing to come here. Together with Chao Yufeng, who was originally in Beijing, the four people from the university dormitory finally gathered in Beijing again. What the Qin family lacked the most was not connections, but money. Therefore, if one wanted to be a qualified playboy, he had to spend as much money as possible. Qin Sheng handed this matter over to Brother Wu. Chang Baji and Bahi were obviously not suitable. Brother Wu was originally a rich second generation. It was reasonable for him to arrange these matters. Therefore, when Xia Ding and Yu Kefi arrived in Beijing, Qin Sheng directly sent 3 Rolls-Royces to pick them up. Xia Ding and Yu Kefi were a little confused. It was not that they hadn't seen such a scene, and they had seen it a lot in that environment. It was just that this was not Qin Sheng's character. Even after Qin Sheng made a counterattack, he had never been so high-profile. Xia Ding and Yu Kefi looked at each other and were a little confused. But they didn't know that the more exciting thing was still to come. The accommodation that Qin Sheng arranged for them was not a hotel. Instead, he booked a very expensive sihiyuan. This sihiyuan was originally a high-end building and was never open to the public. It was only reserved for some special clients, almost all of whom were high-ranking officials and nobles in Beijing. When Xia Ding and Yu Kefi arrived here, Qin Sheng and Chao Yufeng were already waiting inside. At the gate of the sihiyuan, there were 4 supercars worth tens of millions of yuan. When they entered, they found that in addition to Qin Sheng and Chao Yufeng, there were 10 beautiful women with different temperaments inside. This time, Xia Ding and Yu Kefi were even more confused. What was going on? Chapter 835 was not easy. Qin Sheng, who had always been low-key since he was a child, did not like to be a playboy. Maybe it was because of his grandfather's words and deeds when he was a child. Otherwise, Qin Sheng, who had stayed in Beijing, might have become a playboy today. With the power of the Qin family over the years, Qin Sheng might be a little famous in Suzhou City. If Qin Sheng liked to be a playboy, he could have been one when he was in Xi'an. Xi'an was not like old Beijing, where the water was deep and the water was deep. At that time, people with assets of hundreds of millions of yuan in Xi'an were already big shots. The Lin family had this capital. Lin Shi also attached great importance to Qin Sheng and had been training him as a successor. However, Qin Sheng's character made him unable to be a playboy. After that, Qin Sheng experienced a lot of things. When he returned to the Qin family, even though the Qin family was rich and had a strong background, Qin Sheng still could not be a playboy. The Qin family did not need such a role, and Qin Sheng would not become such a role. But now, Qin Sheng had to do this. Only in this way could he numb others. He had to act very well, making people feel that an excellent young man had completely fallen after experiencing an accident. Everything was for outsiders to see, but Qin Sheng still had to stick to the bottom line. At this moment, in the sihiyuan, the garden full of spring could not be closed. This hot summer made every beauty dress very sexy and charming. Brother Wu was absolutely reliable. These were all his arrangements. After all, he had been in Suzhou City for several years. Big brother, this is? Xia Ding could not help but ask. Now he had changed his mind. He had a girlfriend who was well-matched and liked each other, and they were ready to get married. Naturally, he began to go to such occasions gradually. If it was in the past, this would be his favorite atmosphere. Yu Kefi looked at Chao Yufeng and asked him what was going on with his eyes. This was not the big brother's style. Chao Yufeng shook his head helplessly. He had just arrived. If he had known this, he would not have been so confused. Chao Yufeng dared not say that he was henpecked, but he seldom had any contact with women except for friends and colleagues. After all, they were in different positions, and these things were very taboo. Moreover, his girlfriend was a jealous person, and her family condition was better than his, so he dared not do this. Qin Sheng said casually, "Nothing. I just felt that was boring for us to eat together, so I found a few beautiful women to accompany you." Yu Kefi was a little embarrassed as he said, "Boss, you know I don't like these things. Just give them to third brother. He likes them. Go my ass. I've already turned over a new leaf. I'm a decent citizen now." Xia Ding quickly denied it. Qin Sheng said angrily. Come on, can you stop pretending? I know your character very well. Don't be long-winded. Let's go in and have dinner first. Let's get drunk tonight. This Sihiyuan was not inferior to the Sihiyuan of the He family. It was just that it was too exquisite and luxurious and lacked the human touch. There were only 4 suites in the Sihiyuan, plus a kitchen and a dining room, which were taken care of by a special team. Qin Sheng booked it through his sister's connections. Otherwise, the other party would not have given him face. Those beautiful women in the yard were already waiting. As for how they came here, Qin Sheng did not bother to ask. He trusted Brother Wu. It was not difficult to find a few beautiful women in such a big city of Beijing. Moreover, money could make the world go round. After Xia Ding and Yu Kefi put their luggage in the room, they came to the dining room. The dining room was on the 2nd floor, with 2 private rooms and a Western restaurant. The large private room was enough for them to sit down. The large floor-to-ceiling windows on the left could just see the Forbidden City in the evening. The scenery was panoramic. Each of them was surrounded by 2 or 3 beautiful women. They seemed to be college students. They were all good-looking. They did not have plastic surgery. Brother Wu must have done a lot of work. Qin Sheng had been familiar with them for a long time. Before Yu Kefi came, he had been chatting with them. The 2 beautiful women beside him were both top students. One was from Peking University, and the other was from the Chinese Academy of Drama. They were probably both campus belle. As for why they came here, Qin Sheng did not know. Chao Yufeng was a little uncomfortable. He was afraid that his girlfriend had known about it. After all, this was Beijing. Yu Kefi did not feel strange. He often experienced such occasions. As for Xia Ding, he was like a fish in water. Although he said no, this playboy had already started chatting with the 2 beautiful women. Seeing Chao Yufeng's embarrassed look, Xia Ding could not help but make fun of him. Second brother, don't be so restrained. We won't take a video for sister-in-law. Ha ha. Chao Yufeng stared at Xia Ding. The 2 beautiful women beside him also covered their mouths. But they were still flirting with Chao Yufeng, which made him very uncomfortable. Boss, can you tell us now? What on earth is going on? Yu Kefi asked curiously. Qin Sheng said with a smile. Nothing. I just miss you. The 4 of us haven't been together for a long time. So I trick you into coming to Beijing. This time, you can stay for a few more days. Put down all your work and have fun for a few days. In fact, the 3 of them had already heard about what had happened to the Qin family. So after Qin Sheng made the call, they immediately rushed to Beijing. However, it seemed that Qin Sheng was fine. Neither did anything serious happen to the Qin family. Consequently, the 3 of them were somewhat confused. Chao Yufeng was in Sijio City. Although his family was nothing compared to Qin Sheng's status, his girlfriend's family had some background, so she knew something. Yu Kefi and Xia Ding's families were also well known in Jiangsu and Zhejiang, especially Yu Kefi's family. Needless to say, they naturally heard a lot of rumors. Now, the rumors outside were spreading very fast. Some even said that Master Qin had been taken away for investigation. Consequently, they did not know what had happened on Earth. Is it really okay? Yu Kefi still did not believe it. He and Xia Ding had talked about this problem before, but they had never asked Qin Sheng directly. Xia Ding stopped Yu Kefi and said, Lao Si, you are so annoying. This time we're out to have fun. Let's have fun and drink. Xia Ding knew Qin Sheng better. He was very clear that if Qin Sheng was not willing to say anything, no matter how much they asked, they would not get any results. Since Qin Sheng was not willing to say anything, he must have something that he could not say. So they did not ask. Chao Yufeng also came to his senses and said happily, Let's drink. We have not drunk yet. Let's not go home until we are drunk tonight. That's right. Let's drink. After the first round, let's drink the second round. After the second round, let's go. Xia Ding echoed. Qin Sheng finally took a breath. Otherwise, if Yu Kefi continued to ask like this, he really did not know how to deal with it. Fortunately, the others helped him out, so they did not talk nonsense anymore. Today, they just drank, chatted, and talked about the old days. With so many beautiful women around, and after a few glasses of wine, the atmosphere was naturally very lively, including the booing of those beautiful women. Fortunately, The two beautiful women beside Qin Sheng were relatively quiet. Occasionally, they would lower their heads and chat with Qin Sheng, but they would stop talking at the right time. It seemed that Brother Wu had put in a lot of effort. However, whether it was Qin Sheng or Xia Ding and the others, they were not the kind of people who would act recklessly when they were drunk. Moreover, these beautiful women were not dubious characters. Everyone also kept the bottom line and did not cross the line. They did not even hug each other, let alone kiss some beautiful women who took the initiative to kick up a fuss, but they were all rejected by them. Before the dinner was over, they had already talked about going to the bar. Qin Sheng had already arranged it. However, Chao Yufeng and Yu Kefi both thought that it would be too noisy if they took too many people. So they took one beautiful woman with them, while Qin Sheng and Xia Ding took two each. They went straight to the most popular nightclub in the workers' sports complex at present. As for the other beautiful women, they were sent back by Brother Wu. Everything had been arranged by Qin Sheng. He had already booked the biggest booth, 2 sports cars, and 3 Rolls Royces. Such a big battle was rare even in the workers' sports complex, which was not short of rich people. So when they got out of the car, they instantly became the focus of the passers-by. Chao Yufeng deliberately lowered his head for fear of being seen by others. Otherwise, he would be in trouble when he went home. Tonight, he accompanied his brothers to be presumptuous. He had already prepared for the worst. After entering the bar, the booth had been filled with champagne. Each bottle of wine was worth tens of thousands of yuan. It seemed that Qin Sheng wanted to spend money tonight. If he did not spend millions of yuan tonight, it seemed that he would feel sorry for this show. After sitting down, he did not talk nonsense and just started drinking. Qin Sheng did not care whether he would meet any acquaintances. It would be better if he met them. Originally, he was putting on a show for others, so he drank without restraint. He did not know whether it was a fake show to vent his emotions or something else. After sitting down, they just accompanied Qin Sheng to be presumptuous and did not ask anything anymore. There must be something wrong when something abnormal happened. Qin Sheng, who had never been like this, actually did such a high-profile thing. Obviously, something really happened to the Qin family. They could not do anything to help, so they could only accompany Qin Sheng to vent his anger. Qin Sheng was already a little drunk. Fortunately, the 2 beauties beside him helped him to drink a lot. However, one of them seemed to be very disgusted with this kind of occasion, while the other one was trying her best to take care of Qin Sheng. Maybe someone who asked them to come here secretly leaked some information about Qin Sheng's identity, so they behaved like this. Not everyone could make them put down their pride. Finally, Qin Sheng could not bear it anymore. When he went to the toilet, he vomited heavily. He had not drunk like this for a long time. Suddenly, he drank so much. Who could stand it? When Qin Sheng washed his face and came out, the campus belle of Peking University was already waiting at the door. She was very considerate and handed Qin Sheng a tissue. Qin Sheng said casually, "Thank you." The beauty just smiled gently. After that, she helped Qin Sheng to go back to the booth. However, Qin Sheng said, "I want to go out for some fresh air." Therefore, the beauty accompanied Qin Sheng to go out for some fresh air. Qin Sheng tried his best to protect her. After all, there were all kinds of people here. Moreover, they were all drunk. It was inevitable that some men would want to take advantage of them. Fortunately, there were people protecting Qin Sheng in front and behind him. They tried their best to prevent others from approaching. As for Xia Ding and the rest, Qin Sheng asked Brother Wu to go over and inform them. He went out to make a call. After walking out of the bar, Qin Sheng randomly found a corner and squatted on the ground. He smoked silently. The campus belle of Peking University was standing in front of him. Qin Sheng could only see her high-heeled sandals and her exposed calves. Her curves were exquisite and slender. However, Qin Sheng was thinking about other things. This campus belle of Peking University, named Ji Min, was indeed very beautiful. Her temperament was even more pure. In this night of debauchery, her slightly tipsy appearance was even more unique. Compared to that flower vase who thought too much about acting, she, who came from Peking University, naturally had a higher IQ. Therefore, she had been observing Qin Sheng's every move the whole night and seemed to be enjoying it. Ji Min smoothed her hair and slightly bent over to ask, You rarely come to such a place, right? Qin Sheng replied without raising his head. Why? Are you very interested in me? How did you know? Ji Min did not hide it. Her intuition was very strong. This man in front of her was definitely not a nouveau riche or a prodigal. She could tell from his temperament and gaze. Therefore, she would take care of him like this. Otherwise, she would just treat it as helping a friend and going through the motions. Qin Sheng rejected her directly. Don't be interested in me. Otherwise, you will only get hurt. Really? Ji Min covered her mouth and smiled. It seemed that she really wanted to try. Just as Qin Sheng was about to say something, his stomach turned upside down and he vomited again. He almost vomited on Ji Min's feet. Ji Min had no choice but to take care of him immediately. It was not easy to be a rich playboy. It was even more difficult to act. Chapter 836. How could she not know? There were many clever women, but there were not many women with great wisdom. Ji Min was ambiguous. She might belong to the latter in the future, but she was still too young. After all, she was admitted to Peking University and could integrate into a circle. How could she not be smart? The friend who asked her for help was not simple. She also owed that friend a favor. So this time she came out with the mentality that as long as the other party was not too excessive, she could tolerate it. She just needed to return the favor. Fortunately, the result was better than she had imagined. This man did not do anything excessive from beginning to end. At most, he hugged her to a certain extent. His speech and behavior were just the right amount of respect for her. To her surprise, she became more and more interested in this man after getting along with him. First of all, this man's identity could make that friend pay so much attention to him. Secondly, this man was so ostentatious. Needless to say, this man looked good and had a good temperament. The most curious thing was that this man had a lot of contradictions. How could Ji Min, who was born as a talented woman of Peking University, not be interested? Originally, Qin Sheng was making fun of Ji Min, who knew that this woman was really interested in him. Qin Sheng could only block this way in a hurry. This was not the first time that she had said such words. After all, there were not many young talents like him who were young, rich, and had a strong background. Which woman would not be tempted? What's more, Qin Sheng's luck with women was prosperous. His grandfather said that he owed the most loved debts in his life. Therefore, Qin Sheng did not want to get involved in these causes and effects, nor did he want to hurt the girl's heart. He did not want to make himself feel guilty, so he just blocked it directly. Before vomiting, Qin Sheng almost sighed with emotion that it was not his fault that he was handsome. Who knew that before he said this, he had already vomited? After Qin Sheng vomited again, he was ready to go back, otherwise Xia Ding and others might worry. Ji Min was very careful to support Qin Sheng, but she was also thinking about something in her heart. Although the man did not finish his words just now, she could not help but think more. Back to the booth, Xia Ding and others were also waiting for Qin Sheng. At this time, everyone was resting. After all, they really drank a lot tonight. Even Qin Sheng vomited. Others were almost the same. After seeing Qin Sheng coming back, Yu Kefi quickly asked, "Boss, are you okay?" Qin Sheng said disapprovingly, it's okay. Keep drinking. Don't waste so much wine." At this moment, Zhou Qi, another aloof beauty from the Chinese opera school who had not drunk much tonight, took the initiative to drink for Qin Sheng. To be honest, Zhou Qi was prettier than Ji Min. Her facial features were especially exquisite, not to mention her figure. Otherwise, how could she have gone to the Chinese opera school? However, compared to Jimin, her temperament was too tacky. Perhaps it was because they were in a different circle. Jimin was smart, but not scheming, while Zhou Qi was smart, but scheming. She seemed to loathe people like Qin Sheng. Maybe she had been to such occasions many times, but she knew how to hide herself and kept a distance from Qin Sheng and the others. Qin Sheng did not know why she had come, but he was too lazy to guess too much. It was already a little late, and everyone was almost done drinking, so they were ready to go back to the Sihiyuan Hotel. On the way back, Qin Sheng sat alone in a car, with two beautiful women sitting on both sides of Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng really drank too much, and he was too lazy to avoid too much. He directly leaned on Ji Min's body and fell asleep. Ji Min frowned slightly, but she was a little happy in her heart. Women's minds were really hard to guess. When they came out of the bar, a group of people happened to pass by not far away. Qin Sheng's side was so ostentatious, who would not take a few more glances. So after a few glances, these people immediately recognized Qin Sheng. Tut, tut, tut. At this time, first young Master Qin still has the leisure to pick up girls, right? A playboy who had a conflict with Qin Sheng before joked. The 3 men and 4 women had just finished eating and were ready to come over for the second game. Although it was already 1 o'clock for them, 1 o'clock was the most lively time. The playboy's friend next to him said happily, "What could he do about such a big thing? This time the Qin family is really ruined. Everyone is waiting to see the Qin family become a joke. Many people are also waiting to hit them when they are down. If they don't keep a low profile, they may be trampled under their feet. What does it have to do with us? We're just watching the fun. I guess many people will take action soon. After all, first young Master Qin has a good reputation." The playboy laughed out loud, as if he wanted to see Qin Sheng being trampled on. The other people echoed, "Then let's wait and see." Some time ago, Qin Sheng had deliberately kept a low profile. Now, he did not choose to keep a low profile anymore. The reason he did these things was to let others know, even if he was misunderstood by some people. Qin Sheng had planned to go back to the Sihiyuan of the Qin family tonight. However, in the end, he chose to stay with Xia Ding and Yu Kefi. Chao Yufeng went home directly. He did not dare to stay out at night. After arriving at the entrance of the hotel, Ji Min and Zhou Qi helped Qin Sheng into the room. It was not until Qin Sheng lay on the bed that they were about to say goodbye and leave. At this time, Zhou Qi, the beauty of the Chinese opera school, stopped. After a long struggle in her mind, she finally made a decision. She gritted her teeth and said, "Master Qin, let me take care of you tonight." When Zhou Qi said this, Ji Min was stunned. It did not occur to her that the aloof Zhou Qi would say such a thing. She could not even take the initiative to offer herself to Qin Sheng. At most, she could only let Qin Sheng hug her. If he crossed the line again, she would probably be angry. Qin Sheng was also very surprised. However, he immediately understood. He chuckled and sat up. He looked Zhou Qi up and down. She was indeed a beauty. However, it was a pity that she had met Liu Xiaohui, who was like him. Qin Sheng did not mock her. Everyone had their own choices and difficulties. There was no need to be too harsh. He looked at Ji Min and Zhou Qi and said to Zhou Qi first, "You are not as smart as her." Zhou Qi looked confused. She did not understand what Qin Sheng meant. She looked back at Ji Min, who was not far away. She thought that she had more advantages than Ji Min. If Qin Sheng had a choice, he would probably choose her. Who knew that Qin Sheng would say such a thing? However, Qin Sheng said to Ji Min immediately, "You are not as smart as her." This time, it was Ji Min's turn to be confused. "I did not do anything. What did he mean?" However, Ji Min was a person who knew how to think. She immediately began to think about what she had done wrong tonight. "Okay, it's late. Go back." Qin Sheng did not want to explain anything and directly asked them to leave. Brother Wu, who had been guarding at the door, immediately came in. He looked at Ji Min and Zhou Qi rudely and took them away directly. Qin Sheng might have tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex, but his subordinates would not. They really did not know who they were and dare to do anything. After the 2 beauties left, Qin Sheng instantly felt a lot more relaxed. It was not easy to deal with these 2 beauties. After washing up, he went back to the yard and asked someone to call Xia Ding and Yu Kefi out. Although they had drunk a lot of wine, they still kept sober. Before Qin Sheng came back, he had already asked people to prepare supper. There was nothing much, just a few bowls of porridge and some barbecue. After tossing around for most of the night, they were probably hungry. When Xia Ding and Yu Kefi came out, Qin Sheng joked, "Why didn't you leave a beauty to sleep with you? Or you don't like her?" The taste of the 2 young masters is getting more and more picky. After Xia Ding sat down, he replied, "Boss, don't tease me. We usually play, but now we're going to get married. You'd better calm down and do some good for yourself." "That's you. I don't usually play," Yu Kefi retorted. Speaking of marriage, Yu Kefi was going to get married next month. Originally, he was going to get married in May. However, the two families had more things to do, so they could only put it off until August. Now everything that should be prepared was ready. He had also informed his brothers that Xia Ding was one of his best men. Don't talk nonsense. Eat something. Qin Sheng shook his head and smiled bitterly. After eating supper, it was already late at night in Sizhou City. The sky of the Sihiyuan still could not see any stars. Fortunately, there was a little breeze, so it was not so hot and irritating. The three brothers were not in a hurry to go back to rest, so they sat in silence. Yu Kefi couldn't help but ask again, "Boss, tell me, what's wrong?" "Just acting." Qin Sheng did not deny it this time and replied truthfully. Yu Kefi and Xia Ding looked at each other. Xia Ding frowned and said, "Acting? For whom?" "For those who want to see," Qin Sheng said in a deep voice. Yu Kefi asked, "What's wrong?" Qin Sheng said calmly, "Maybe you have heard a lot of rumors, which are spreading everywhere outside. I can tell you now that these are all true. Something happened to the Qin family." Now he could face these things calmly. What else could he do if he didn't face them? Qin Sheng thought to himself. When Qin Sheng said that these were all true, Yu Kefi and Xia Ding did not come to their senses for a long time. Although they had already guessed this possibility, it was inevitable that they would be a little shocked when they really knew the truth. Master Qin was arrested? Xia Ding asked cautiously. In fact, when Qin Sheng returned to Beijing in a hurry and did not return to Shanghai for such a long time, Xia Ding had guessed this possibility. Otherwise, why did Qin Sheng suddenly return to Beijing, and why did the rumors suddenly spread outside? Qin Sheng did not answer, but nodded in silence. Yu Kefi gritted his teeth and said, "Boss, what can we help you with?" "Ah, thank you. If you can really help me, how can I not ask for help?" Qin Sheng said with a smile, "Let's not talk about this. If you really want to help me, you can accompany me to put on a good show this time. Just stay for a few more days." What could Xia Ding and Yu Kefi say? Just as Qin Sheng had said, even if they really wanted to help, what could they do? After chatting for a while, everyone was also tired, so they went back to their rooms to rest. They would continue to have fun tomorrow. Anyway, Qin Sheng had let go of everything and let the situation develop. He wanted to see how long the Zhu family would let him wait. In the morning, when Qin Sheng, Xia Ding, and Yu Kefi had breakfast, several beauties yesterday had arrived, but only one of Xia Ding and Yu Kefi stayed, while Qin Sheng still had two, Ji Min, the campus belle of Peking University, and Zhou Qi, the vase of Chinese opera. In the following week, Qin Sheng, Xia Ding, Yu Kefi, and several beauties had fun. They played whatever was fun. Anyway, they were not short of money. They almost had fun every night. Chow Yufeng came occasionally. After all, he was not as free as others. Qin Sheng was so high profile. How could those people not know? Chapter 837. He had never returned to the villa in Xishan. Qin Ran occasionally went to the company during this period, but most of the time, she was meeting with friends or relaxing. The day before yesterday, she even went to Binhai, Tianjin for 2 days. It seemed that she had completely ignored the affairs of the Qin family. The unusual behavior of the siblings surprised many people, including their friends. Only Zhao Anji was still busy, which made people feel a little sad. However, the final result was somewhat unsatisfactory. There was still no progress. The only progress was in the Chang'an faction. She had stopped Sixth Uncle from further expanding his power. But this did not satisfy Zhao Anji. She began to reflect. Should it really be like what the Zhu family said? After Zhao Anji left the West Mountain Villa with her daughter, she didn't contact Qin Ran and Qin Sheng during this time, let alone see them. But she knew what they were doing, which showed that they agreed with the Zhu family and chose another way. Zhao Anji was more or less disappointed about this. When Zhao Anji was hesitating, she received an unexpected call that she hadn't heard for a long time. After so many years, since she became a monk in Wutai Mountain, she had never taken the initiative to call her, let alone look for her. Most of the time, she occasionally went to see her when she returned to China. Zhao Anji was full of hatred for her. No matter what happened to the Qin family in the future, it would still not change her hatred. In the long corridor of the temple where Qin Chongqing hid in Wutai Mountain, he could overlook most of the temples on Wutai Mountain. The scenery was very pleasant. Today's weather was also good, not so sultry. Qin Changxing thought for a long time and took the initiative to make the call. The first thing he considered was whether it was appropriate for the current situation of the Qin family, as the Zhu family said. He had to think about this carefully. He couldn't agree just because of what Qin Sheng said. He had to review it himself and weigh all the pros and cons before making a decision. Since it was clear that his Buddha's heart was in chaos, and it was impossible for him to meditate and completely separate himself from the secular world, he would enter the secular world again to cut off all the karma. So he had already begun to plan for the future of the Qin family. Second, he had to consider how to make this call to Zhao Anji and whether it was appropriate to make this call. After all, he owed Zhao Anji too much over the years. He would always feel guilty when he was with Zhao Anji. He didn't want to disturb Zhao Anji's life. And it's me, Qin Changxing said guiltily after the call went through. On the other side, Zhao Anji, who had been very tired recently, saw that it was an unfamiliar number. She didn't want to answer it at first, but she was afraid that she would miss an important call, so she picked up the call. Who knew it would be that familiar voice? Qin Changxing? Zhao Anji fell silent. Why did he suddenly call her? It had been so many years, and she hadn't seen him call once. It must be about the Qin family. It's you, Zhao Anji said coldly. Qin Changxing was not surprised by Zhao Anji's coldness. He replied, "Have you worked hard? You've worked hard? What does this have to do with you? If you have anything to say, just say it. If not, I'll hang up. There's no need for small talk between us." Zhao Anji said very impolitely. The person she hated the most was Qin Changxing. Not to mention seeing him, even hearing his voice was enough for her. Over there, sitting on the bench, Qin Changxing smiled helplessly. He wasn't angry at all. Instead, he felt more guilty. All these years, he had really let down this mother and daughter pair. Anyone would hate him, but he also had his own troubles that he couldn't talk about. "How is Yaya?" Qin Changxing asked softly. Thinking of this daughter, Qin Changxing's mood was even more complicated and contradictory. He might not even have the courage to face his daughter. Since she was born, he hadn't seen her once, let alone taken care of her. Zhao Anji's answer was still very strong. She said angrily, "Qin Changxing, you're not qualified to ask her. If you have something to say, just say it. Don't challenge my patience. I've already saved you a lot of face." Qin Changxing wanted to chat for a while before talking about business. This could also ease the atmosphere. Who knew that Zhao Anji wouldn't give him a chance at all? He could only sigh and say, "In that case, then I'll talk about business. If you have something to say, just say it." Zhao Anji replied angrily. At this time, Yaya ran into the study and asked her to eat. Zhao Anji quickly covered the phone and said that she would be down immediately. Seeing that Yaya's smile had gradually disappeared these days, Zhao Anji was in a bad mood. She began to regret returning to China. If she had stayed in Canada and stayed away from these things, it might have been the best choice. Diaotai Courtyard No. 7 was also a famous mansion in Suzhou City. The Qin family's flat was 400 square meters. Qin Chang'an occasionally lived here. Compared to the Sihiyuan in Dongxing district, the environment here might be better. It was next to Yuantan Park, and the scenery was panoramic. Whether it was the geographical location or the surrounding environment, they were all excellent. At this time, Zhao Anji was in Qin Chang'an's study. The large floor-to-ceiling window of the study faced Yuantan Park, overlooking the park. Such a scenery made people feel a little relaxed. After Yaya went out, Zhao Anji said again, "Say it." Qin Changxing, who was on the other side, also heard Yaya's voice. He suppressed his excitement. Although he really wanted to see Yaya, he could not bring himself to do so. He really did not know what kind of scene it would be if the father and daughter met one day. Was it Yaya just now? Qin Changxing couldn't help asking. It could be said that he had no desires in this life. If there was a weakness, it would be Yaya. Even Zhao Anji couldn't be counted as his weakness. It could be seen how strong Qin Changxing's heart was. Zhao Anji said coldly, "Say it." Qin Changxing shook his head helplessly. He put away his emotions and had to say seriously, "Anji Shenger called me." "What? You want to persuade me? Do you think I'll listen to you?" Zhao Anji said very disdainfully. Both of them had been to Mount Wutai, so Qin Changxing naturally knew what had happened to the Qin family. It turned out that Sheng wanted him, her eldest uncle, to persuade her. Qin Changxing didn't make a long speech. He said, honestly, I won't say anything to persuade you, because I've reviewed and weighed it again. If it's really as I think the Zhu family suggestion is the most correct. At this time, the Qin family should stay away from this storm. When everything comes to light, we will act according to the circumstances. What? Are you going to abandon your brother, the Qin family's property, or both? Zhao Anji said sarcastically. Qin Changxing didn't want to refute her. He said in a low voice, Chang'an knows better than anyone what kind of environment he is in, what is the worst result for him, and what is the best result for him. As for the so-called property of the Qin family, it's nothing. Zhao Anji didn't take Qin Changxing's words seriously at all. She snorted and said, you hide in Mount Wutai like a turtle. It's easy to talk. What qualifications do you have to comment? Qin Changxing thought for a long time and said, when the time is right, I will come back. After saying this, Qin Changxing directly hung up the phone. It was useless to say more. He believed that after he said these words, Zhao Anji would reconsider, because she was a very smart and wise woman. Wasn't it the best result for her to go to Canada at that time? If she had no feelings for the Qin family, how could she come back when the Qin family was in the most difficult time? The Qin family, and he would always owe this woman. In the study, Zhao Anji was lost in thought on the lake in Jaipur Park. This phone call had a great impact on her, especially Qin Changxing's last sentence. When the time is right, I will come back. Would he really come back? She had waited for more than 20 years. Only she knew how she had survived for more than 20 years. If one were to say who hated Qin Changxing the most in this world, it would definitely be her, Zhao Anji. If one were to say who loved Qin Changxing the most in this world, it would still be her. If it were not for the fact that she deeply loved this man who used to have a promising future, how could she go to Canada to give birth to his child? How could she live in Canada alone with the child for so many years? How could she come back when the Qin family was in the most difficult time? She was the one who loved and hated the most. At this time, only love could make people so infatuated. If Qin Changxing really came back, it would definitely be a timely help to the Qin family. In the beginning, when Qin Sheng said that Qin Changxing might come back, Zhao Anji did not take it seriously at all. She thought that it was just Qin Changxing's excuse. However, now that Qin Changxing said it himself, how could Zhao Anji not believe it? How could Zhao Anji not be shocked? She had never doubted Qin Changxing's ability. This man used to have a promising future. He had conquered many big shots and made them place high hopes on him. If it were not for the storm in the Qin family back then, he might have been a governor now. This was also one of the reasons why she loved this man so deeply. This man had once fascinated many women. How could the man of the Qin family let people down? Therefore, after Zhao Anji came back to her senses, she could not help but start to think about Qin Changxing's words, which was the Zhu family suggestion. Since Qin Changxing had thought about it carefully, it meant that she could trust the Zhu family. The reason why Qin Changxing made this call was not because of Sheng or the Zhu family's lobbyist, but because he felt that this was the right thing to do. Thus, Zhao Anji decided that he would wait and see what would happen. Since she had made up her mind, Zhao Anji was not the kind of person who would hesitate. Therefore, she decided to leave Sijio City and prepare to take Yaya to Changbai Mountain to avoid the summer heat. This month could be said to be exhausting, so she would take this opportunity to go out and relax. Or, in other words, to wait for new problems. At a certain equestrian club at the foot of the Great Wall of Beijing, Qin Sheng took Xia Dingyu to ride a horse today. Of course, there were also 4 beautiful women. Since that day, Ji Min and Zhou Qi could be said to be inseparable from him. They spent most of their time outside except at night. Qin Sheng took them to have fun. Chapter 838. Racecourse incident. When it came to horseback riding, Qin Sheng dared not say that he was a professional, but he was definitely not a newbie. He had been to the Inner Mongolia grassland before and stayed in Xilingol League, which was known as the horse capital of China, for 2 months. That place was a famous horse-producing area in the north of the Great Wall. The horses there were mainly Mongolian horses and Zilangol horses, but there were also differences between white horses and black horses. West Ujimkin Banner was the home of white horses, while Abaga Banner was the home of black horses. Qin Sheng had even participated in their natum and had seen the spectacular scene of thousands of fine horses running wildly on the grassland. He ate and slept with the herdsmen on the grassland and learned how to ride a horse on the same day. A week later, he was more skilled, like a native of Inner Mongolia. Half a month later, he began to wrestle with those grassland men. At that time, there was an old herdsman who liked him very much and wanted him to marry into their family. Unfortunately, Qin Sheng left after only 2 months. In order to have fun these few days, Qin Sheng had thought of everything he could do. Only then did he think of riding a horse. Beijing was a place where the rich gathered. There was no lack of professional horse farms or equestrian clubs. Many rich people even had private horse farms. Qin Sheng asked his friend to recommend a relatively high-end equestrian club. That was why he brought them here. This equestrian club had 40 to 50 horses. It was not a lot, but they were all expensive horses. The club was not open to the public and was only open to members. Different levels of members could bring different numbers of companions. Qin Sheng was very simple. With a wave of his hand, he registered for the 3 of them as members. It was only a membership fee of about 100,000 yuan per year. Young Master Qin was not short of money. He loved to spend money now. At this time, Xia Ding and Yu Kefi were playing with him. After getting along for a few days, they got along well. Yu Kefi and Xia Ding didn't think much about their female companions. They just treated them as friends. Besides, if they really wanted to do something, there was no shortage of women. Since Qin Sheng came down to rest, Ji Min and Zhou Qi naturally accompanied him. The clothes they wore today showed off their figures. Both of them tied their hair into ponytails, looking very youthful and beautiful. However, they did not ride for a long time. Zhou Qi was naturally afraid of these animals. As for Ji Min, she had ridden before but was not interested in them. Her biggest hobby was playing tennis. She had won an award in the past. After receiving a call from his sister, Qin Sheng went to the side to answer the phone and came back soon. This call made him quite surprised. His sister could accompany his aunt to Changbai Mountain, which meant that his aunt had nodded and agreed. It should be that his uncle had successfully persuaded his aunt. It seemed that his aunt still listened to his uncle, although the relationship between them was contradictory and complicated. Now, his aunt had taken his sister to Changbai Mountain. He continued to be a playboy. The Qin family had completely let go of the Qin family's affairs. It was estimated that everyone would be confused, but he didn't know whether the next development of the situation would be good or bad for them. Qin Sheng was not sure. Although this was the suggestion of the Zhu family, they were also gambling. If they lost the gamble, the Qin family was very likely to be wiped out. At that time, not only could the old man not be saved, but he would also be kicked out of the Chang and school. Qin Sheng frowned and was lost in thought, which was very charming. This was the characteristic of a man who had experienced the vicissitudes of life. Unconsciously, Ji Min was a little fascinated. Zhou Qi glanced at the infatuated Ji Min and continued to drink. After that day, she was quite embarrassed to see Qin Sheng again. She didn't expect that Qin Sheng would ask her to continue to come. Her friends told her not to think too much, but not to be silly in the future. Zhou Qi was different from Ji Min. She was from the Chinese opera school and was destined to enter the entertainment circle in the future. But what was the most important in the entertainment circle? Financial backers and connections were the most important. Without these two, even if you were as beautiful as a fairy, you would not be popular because no one would support you. These all needed resources. It was not that Zhou Qi had never met a rich nouveau riche before, but they were either nouveau riche or some emerging technology elites. They were rich and had social status, but none of them had anything to do with her. As for those swindlers, needless to say, they were all swindlers. However, Qin Sheng was different. On the second day, her friend had revealed to her that he was the real rich playboy in Siju City. Even if she could not ride on his coattails, she would still benefit a lot from being his friend. Because of this, Zhou Qi had braced herself to come the next day. Otherwise, she would have given up long ago. Master Qin, what's wrong? After Ji Min came to her senses, she was more or less embarrassed and lowered her head for fear of being discovered. Maybe this was the way to like someone. She had not liked anyone for a long time. Qin Sheng smiled casually and said, "Nothing. Why don't you ride? I'm afraid to be alone. If you accompany me, then I can try again," Ji Min deliberately said coquettishly. She was now used to the way she got along with Qin Sheng. Anyway, she liked Qin Sheng and would not hide it. Even if she did not contact him in the future, she just needed to cherish the time now. So most of the time, Ji Min deliberately teased Qin Sheng. If you were too formal with Qin Sheng, you would not be able to get close to him at all. For example, Zhou Qi, who was always formal, Qin Sheng rarely talked to her. Most of the time, he preferred to play with her. Qin Sheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. "Okay, then I'll play with you for a while. You're the best." Ji Min took the initiative to hold Qin Sheng's arm and subconsciously wanted to give him a kiss. But Qin Sheng stopped her. "Stop, stop. I have a girlfriend. Don't have any ideas about me." Ji Min let out a long sigh and said, "I'm so envious. I really don't know which beauty has such a blessing. If there's a chance, I must meet her." Qin Sheng stood up and prepared to leave with Ji Min. He did not forget to turn back and said to Zhou Qi, "Are you going? Give it a try. Riding a horse is quite interesting. Don't be afraid of anything." Zhou Qi originally wanted to refuse, but it was Qin Sheng who invited her. After thinking about it again and again, she nodded and agreed. Then she left with Qin Sheng and Ji Min. On the racetrack, Yu Kefi and Xia Ding were riding horses with beautiful women. Yu Kefi and Xia Ding had learned horsemanship since childhood, and they often went to ride horses. Yu Kefi's family also had a horse farm, which raised more than a dozen famous horses at home and abroad. This was easy for him. Because Ji Min had ridden a horse, Qin Sheng did not need to teach her. At this time, he first taught Zhou Qi, who could not ride and was afraid to ride. There was a staff of the horse farm next to her to help her get familiar. She was relatively tall, and because she had been dancing since elementary school, she was relatively soft. In fact, she was quite suitable for riding. After getting familiar with her for more than half an hour, Zhou Qi finally dared to ride a horse. Qin Sheng took her for a few laps, but there was a staff next to her, so the speed was not fast. Qin Sheng had been interacting with Zhou Qi, and Ji Min was a little jealous. Until Zhou Qi was familiar with her, she coquettishly asked Qin Sheng to accompany her for 2 laps. Qin Sheng did not care, so he took Ji Min to run and let Zhou Qi continue to get used to it. Ji Min was satisfied. Qin Sheng's skill was good, but Ji Min could only be said to be average. In order to take care of her, Qin Sheng was not fast. "How can you ride so well? You used to ride often, or did you learn it professionally? People like you should have learned horsemanship since childhood. I heard from Brother Xia and Brother Fei that they learned it when they were young." Ji Min deliberately looked for a topic. Qin Sheng shook his head and said, "I am not like them. I did not have such opportunities when I was young. But when I graduated from college, I stayed in Inner Mongolia for 2 months. That place is the horse capital of China, Xilingolik. I almost rode with the herdsmen every day. Anyone can learn it. What do you think?" Ji Min was surprised and said, "I see. No wonder your skill is so good. Riding on the grassland is different from riding here. That is the real riding. The sky is high and the clouds are wide, and the horse is running wildly. If there is a chance, you can go there and have a look," Qin Sheng said with a smile. The long-lost feeling made him a little nostalgic. Ji Min chuckled and said, "You can also try it here. I really want to see it. It should be very handsome, right?" Qin Sheng thought for a moment. There are not many people here today. It should be okay to ride a little faster. He was about to speed up subconsciously. Who knew that the movement on the side of the stable attracted him? It seemed that 2 groups of people had a dispute, and the sound was a little loud. Qin Sheng did not want to take care of it, but who knew that Xia Ding and Yu Kefi were also there? He could not help but be a little worried, so he hurried over with Ji Min. At the side of the stable, the 2 groups of people had already quarreled. The staff was persuading them, but it seemed that it did not work at all. One of the beauties was slapped, and even the staff was kicked twice. It could be seen that it was more or less troublesome. One of the beauties who was slapped was none other than Zhou Qi, who was about to take a rest. The matter was very simple. When the horse trainer brought her over, there was a beauty riding a horse a little fast next to her, which startled Zhou Qi's horse. The two horses almost collided with each other. The beauty was also shocked and almost fell off the horse, so she was quite angry. After getting off the horse, she directly found trouble with Zhou Qi. Zhou Qi did not know who was right and who was wrong, but she took the initiative to apologize first. Who knew that the beauty would not let it go and said that it would be over after an apology. Zhou Qi said casually, "Then what do you want to do?" Who knew that the beauty suddenly lost her temper and directly slapped Zhou Qi in the face, which made Zhou Qi turn pale with fright. She did not expect that it would be so sudden. Big tears flowed down in an instant, so she pulled the beauty and did not let her leave. Not to mention that Zhou Qi was angry. Even the horse trainer could not stand it anymore. He asked the beauty why she hit people. Who knew that the beauty directly kicked Ma Sure away and scolded, "Who do you think you are? How dare you control me? Believe it or not, I will make you leave immediately." After seeing the quarrel here, Xia Ding and Yu Kefi, who were not far away, immediately rushed over. After listening to the whole process, they naturally wanted to stand up for Zhou Qi and let the beauty apologize to Zhou Qi. Otherwise, today's matter would not be over. This very arrogant beauty did not put Yu Kefi and Xia Ding in her eyes at all. It was impossible for her to apologize and admit her mistake. If they wanted to make trouble, she would accompany them at any time. Maybe the noise here was too big. Several friends of the beauty also rushed over. Without asking what was going on, they directly confronted Yu Kefi and Xia Ding. The scene was somewhat out of control, and Qin Sheng also found it. Chapter 839. Most of the members of this equestrian club were either rich or noble, but this was Sijio City. There were too many rich people and too many powerful people. Naturally, there were a lot of people with backgrounds. However, this beauty could be so domineering in such a place. She did not care about the background of Xia Ding and Yu Kefei. She did not give them any face at all. She was so confident. It could be seen that she was not an ordinary character. Yu Kefei and Xia Ding did not believe that she did not know what this place was. Xia Ding and Yu Kefi had never seen or known this group of people. After all, they were not in the circle of Sijio City. If it was in Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Shanghai, the probability of knowing acquaintances might be higher. But the other party was so domineering. How could Xia Ding and Yu Kefi not be angry? Besides, they had figured out what was going on. It was not a big deal. This beauty was wrong first, and Zhou Qi took the lead to apologize. They just smiled at each other. Who knew that this beauty was so domineering? Not only did she not apologize, but she also slapped Zhou Qi directly, which was a bit too much. Xia Ding and Yu Kefi did not want to stand up for Zhou Qi. This was not their territory, and they did not want to make trouble. Besides, they were not familiar with Zhou Qi, so there was no need to get involved in trouble. They just wanted to seek justice for Zhou Qi, as long as this beauty apologized and admitted her mistake. Who knew that the other party not only did not apologize, but also was so arrogant, so they were in a deadlock. Beauty, this is a bit too much. Nothing happened. What do you mean by this slap? Xia Ding said in a bad tone. The beauty was wearing a standard equestrian suit. Her figure looked good, and she seemed to be a little taller than Zhou Qi. She said very disdainfully, "Well, I slapped her. What do you want? No, you can also call the police. We don't mean anything else, and we don't want to make trouble. As long as you apologize, this matter will be over. How about it?" Xia Ding restrained his temper. If this was in Shanghai, he might make trouble. Unfortunately, this was Sijio City. He did not have this confidence, nor did he want to offend anyone. The beauty did not speak, but one of the men among her companions who rushed over said coldly, "Apologize? You want us to apologize? Who the F***CK are you? If you want to make trouble, we will accompany you at any time. As for the consequences, you are responsible for it." This guy looked a little burly, and his explosive muscles almost tore his short sleeves. Obviously, he didn't put Xia Ding and Yu Kefi in his eyes at all. Later, another man with glasses casually glanced at Zhou Qi, Yu Kefi, and Xia Ding's female companions, and sneered, "What kind of people are you? Since when can anyone come here?" Yu Kefi had a good temper, but this group of people was so arrogant that he couldn't restrain himself. "Who the hell are you scolding? So what if I scold you? Do you want to fight?" The burly man rushed directly over and shouted at Yu Kefi. Yu Kefi looked a little thin and petite in front of him. They were not at the same level at all, so he did not take Yu Kefi seriously. The atmosphere was tense, and the two sides were about to fight. Zhou Qi just covered her face and hid behind Xia Ding and Yu Kefi. She didn't expect such an accident to happen today. She, who had never suffered any losses since she was a child, was slapped by others. There was a clear handprint on her face, and half of her face was now swollen. This made her cry in a low voice. The other party was obviously not an ordinary person. She did not dare to say anything for fear that things would get out of hand. Of course, she hoped that Xia Ding and Yu Kefi could vent her anger for her, but why would they do so? Therefore, Zhou Qi seemed to have already known the result of today. She could only accept this loss and take it as her own bad luck. As for Xia Ding and Yu Kefi's female companion, Yu Kefi's female companion was comforting Zhou Qi in a low voice, and Xia Ding's female companion seemed to be a little smart. She quietly left the crowd to find Qin Sheng. After these days of contact, she was very clear that Qin Sheng had the strongest background among these people, because Xia Ding and Yu Kefi were all foreigners, while Qin Sheng was a local. If Qin Sheng was here, maybe things would not be like this. At this time, Xia Ding pulled Yu Kefi and said, "Why fight? We are reasonable people. Let's talk about the matter as it stands. Just apologize." "But what if we don't apologize?" The man with glasses chuckled. Xia Ding took a step back and said, "Oh, you don't look like ordinary people. I guess you're also famous people in our Siju city. You don't have to do this for such a small thing. Can't you have a little tolerance? Bullying a little girl is nothing, right? Let's all take a step back, okay? Who do you think you are? Do you think you could take a step back, just like that?" The strong man looked directly at Xia Ding and scolded. This was already very disrespectful to Xia Ding. Xia Ding could still speak so politely, which showed that Xia Ding had really matured in these years. If it was in the past, they would have already fought. Xia Ding was still restraining himself. He replied, "Buddy, you are not very good. Are all the rich playboys in Siju City like this?" The staff did not dare to persuade them at this time. They were all scattered around. Everyone knew that the members here were not simple. When the city gate was in trouble, the fish in the moat would be in trouble. They were all ordinary people. How could they afford to provoke these people? I say, you're like a woman. If you want to fight or make trouble, just be direct. If you don't want to, get out of here quickly. I don't have time to play with you. The strong man's patience had been exhausted, and he directly opened his mouth to scold. Xia Ding was already very angry, but he was somewhat in a dilemma. If he made trouble, it might be a big deal. At that time, some things would have to be cleaned up by the boss. But the Qin family was in such a situation now. Xia Ding really did not want to cause trouble for Qin Sheng. Yu Kefi seemed to have no time to care about anything at this time. He really wanted to directly teach this arrogant strong man a lesson and give him 2 big slaps to teach him how to behave. But his concerns were similar to Xia Ding's. He did not want to cause trouble for the boss. If the other party was still so aggressive, Yu Kefi would not care about anything. At worst, he would let the old man come to Beijing to clean up the mess. At this time, Qin Sheng finally rushed over. He quietly pulled Yu Kefi behind him, looked at the opposite side, and said, "Is it so difficult to apologize for doing something wrong? When you go out, don't lose the face of the elders in your family. Siju City is so small. Do you really think that anyone can step on it?" Yu Kefi thought it was someone else. When he saw it was Qin Sheng, he finally had some confidence in his heart. It seemed that since he went to college, no matter what he did, as long as Qin Sheng was around, he was not afraid of anything. Seeing Qin Sheng coming, Xia Ding also breathed a long sigh of relief and hurriedly shouted, "Boss!" Zhou Qi, whose makeup had been ruined by crying, looked at Qin Sheng with grievance. It was really distressing. After all, she was a beautiful woman. Such a pear blossom in tears. Anyone would have tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex. Qin Sheng patted Zhou Qi's shoulder lightly and said, "It's okay." Qin Sheng's calm demeanor made those people on the opposite side very disgusted, especially after Qin Sheng's words. Wasn't this a naked slap in the face? However, Qin Sheng could say these words, which showed that Qin Sheng also had confidence. It seemed that he was not afraid of them. The beautiful woman who started it and the man with glasses squinted thoughtfully. However, the burly man didn't seem to think about anything at all. He stood up directly and shouted at Qin Sheng, "What the hell are you?" When he shouted this sentence, the beautiful woman who made trouble and the man with glasses subconsciously felt the dangerous atmosphere. When they wanted to persuade their friends, it was too late. They saw Qin Sheng reach out like lightning, grab the man's arm, pulled it in an instant, and hit the man's abdomen with his knee. The strong man had no time to react. When he came to his senses, the great pain had passed to his brain, and his handsome face immediately became very ferocious. However, Qin Sheng did not stop there. He wanted to teach the other party a lesson today. Anyway, he was going to be a playboy. Fighting and making trouble was nothing. If the other party's background was not strong, they could only be unlucky. If the other party's background was strong, it was exactly what Qin Sheng wanted, which was to make trouble for others. So when he walked over, Qin Sheng had already thought of a countermeasure. Therefore, before the strong man and his companions came to their senses, Qin Sheng had already approached them directly. He suddenly exerted force and directly threw the man's huge body to the ground with a thud. No one expected that the scene would be so explosive. Qin Sheng's sudden action shocked everyone, and everyone was scared to step back a few steps. This strong man was more than 8 meters tall. Although his muscles were very strong, they were all trained in the gym. They looked good, but were useless, not to mention that he had no actual combat experience. What about Qin Sheng? He didn't know how many times he had risked his life, and several times he had slipped back from the gates of hell. How could this man be Qin Sheng's opponent? The man was directly stunned by Qin Sheng's fall. He lay on the ground, struggling and groaning in pain. He couldn't get up no matter how hard he tried. His two friends were already stunned. "Don't you apologize?" Qin Sheng ignored the strong man lying on the ground and went directly to the beautiful woman who made trouble. He asked in an unkind tone. Not to mention the other party was stunned. Even Yu Kefi and Xiaoding were stunned. The boss was the boss. He didn't talk to the other party at all. He directly took action. They were still too far behind. Several beautiful women were attracted by Qin Sheng's domineering appearance at the moment. Ji Min's eyes were about to emit golden light. It seemed that she wanted to directly offer herself to Qin Sheng. No matter whether Qin Sheng wanted it or not, she had to be shameless. As for Zhou Qi, who was beaten, it seemed that she was more excited than Ji Min. The image of Qin Sheng just now had been completely imprinted in her mind. No matter how many years later, she could remember what this man had done for her today. "What do you want to do?" The beautiful woman was frightened by Qin Sheng and shouted in fear. Qin Sheng was a little funny and said, "Apologize? Is it so difficult?" The man with glasses braced himself to stand up and said, "Dude, I advise you not to court death. Do you know who we are?" Qin Sheng sneered and said, "Who you are has nothing to do with me. I just want her to apologize. If you don't want to hurt the innocent, get out of the way." "What if I don't get out of the way?" The man with glasses did not get out of the way. He responded very strongly and was not frightened by Qin Sheng's behavior just now. Since Qin Sheng was not polite and had no time to talk to him, he directly pushed the man away. The man wanted to resist, but how could he be Qin Sheng's opponent? Before he could get close to Qin Sheng, he was kicked away by Qin Sheng and fell heavily to the ground. This time, the beautiful woman who was the initiator was completely scared. She didn't expect it to be like this. As for Qin Sheng, he just wanted to be domineering. Who didn't know that? The beautiful woman wanted to run, but she couldn't move her legs. She could only watch Qin Sheng walk in front of her. She still stubbornly said, "Do you know who I am? If you dare to touch me, I will not spare you." Apologize. Qin Sheng said two simple words, but then he said, "It's okay if you don't want to apologize. You hit my friend, and my friend slaps you back. How about that?" The beautiful woman felt very wronged. She gritted her teeth with red eyes and didn't know what to do for a while. Qin Sheng didn't say much. He just turned around and shouted to Zhou Qi, "Qi, come here." Zhou Qi was a little at a loss, but she still walked over slowly. She knew that no matter what happened today, this man would support her, so she was not afraid of anything at this time. After Zhou Qi walked over, Qin Sheng said with a smile, "Give it back." Zhou Qi was a little hesitant, as if she dared not raise her arm. The beautiful woman also shouted, "How dare you?" Qin Sheng comforted her, "It's okay. Don't be afraid. I'm here." Zhou Qi was still hesitating, and her expression was a little painful. She didn't know whether she should do this or not. Things had already come to this point. She really wanted to say something to Qin Sheng, or just let it go. She was afraid that she would get Qin Sheng into trouble, just when Zhou Qi was hesitating, and just when everyone was waiting. At this time, suddenly a man's strange voice came from behind. "Oh, I was wondering who was so bold. It turns out to be our first young Master Qin." "Awesome, awesome." Qin Sheng heard this somewhat familiar voice, and subconsciously raised his head to look not far away. When he saw the man's appearance, he knew that today's matter seemed to have just begun. Chapter 840. All of them. It was supposed to be a very simple matter. Both parties would just apologize to each other and smile at each other. Maybe they could even become friends. Unfortunately, the other party's arrogance and domineering eventually caused the matter to go completely out of control, which also gave Qin Sheng a rare opportunity. No wonder Qin Sheng gave them a taste of their own medicine. This was all their own doing. At this moment, Qin Sheng did not feel any pressure at all. He could not wait for things to blow up as much as possible. That was why he attacked without hesitation. He would not reason with the other party like he did in the past. He would only attack if he could not reason with them anymore. What he was afraid of now was that the other party's background was not strong enough. If the background was too weak, the final result would be nothing more than them apologizing and admitting defeat. Qin Sheng was afraid that he would not be able to achieve his goal. There was really no sense of achievement in trampling on a group of rich playboys who did not have a strong background. If their background was slightly stronger, perhaps it would be of some use to Qin Sheng. At least, his reputation as a rich playboy would be spread out. If the other party's background was on par with his, or was even more powerful than his, Qin Sheng would be more than happy to see that. Then, he could continue to make trouble. Anyway, the bigger the trouble, the better it would be. The more people involved, the better. In this way, it would be best for him to make a name for himself. God knows how many people would know him, and he would achieve his goal. As for the final result, Qin Sheng would not think too much about it. At worst, he could ask someone to clean up his mess for him. As long as he achieved his goal, it was fine. However, the probability of this happening was very small. Although Siju City was very big, it was still very small to encounter a city that was on par with, or even more powerful than Qin Sheng in Beijing. How could one be so lucky? Who knew that God was so interesting? The more impossible something was, the more likely it was to happen. When he saw that man appear, Qin Sheng really wanted to look up to the sky and laugh out loud. His luck was too good. He could even meet someone like this. He really had no choice but to make trouble. In that case, he would make it bigger today. As for those rich playboys who had already suffered losses, they were destined to be cannon fodder today, and also destined to be the supporting characters this time. However, they could only blame themselves. They were used to being domineering and thought that no one dared to provoke them. Now that they had finally kicked an iron plate and met Qin Sheng, they could do nothing about it. The tall and sturdy man was directly knocked down by Qin Sheng, lying on the ground and moaning in pain. The elite man wearing glasses tried to stop Qin Sheng like a mantis trying to stop a chariot, but he was just digging his own grave. He was directly kicked away by Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng was left with the last beautiful woman who was the initiator to face Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng was alone, facing all of them directly. How could they not be afraid? Most importantly, they had said some harsh words, such as, "Do you know who we are? Do you know what the consequences will be today?" But after saying these words, the other party did not put them in his eyes and still beat them unscrupulously. It could be seen that the other party was definitely not simple. So the beautiful woman who hit them had already begun to worry. But because of her temper and her pride, she could not bow her head and admit her mistake, even if she was slapped. Just when her heart was dead, the main character of their trip appeared at this time. He was also their biggest support. As long as this man was here, they would not be afraid of anything. The losses and beatings they had just suffered would be paid back. The man's words attracted all the attention there. Whether it was the several people on the other side or on Qin Sheng's side, when they heard the man's words, they all got a message. That was this man knew Qin Sheng. Several girls might think that if they knew each other, today's matter would be reduced to a small matter. But Xia Ding and Yu Kefi could hear from the man's tone that this man seemed to be not very good with Qin Sheng. They did not know if the two sides had conflicts before or because of today's matter. Although they did not know who this man was, they could hear from this man's words that this man was definitely not simple. Otherwise, how could he be so confident? When the beautiful woman, who was about to break down, saw the man, she hurriedly ran over and almost cried. "Second brother, you have to help us." The man, who was called Second Brother, gently wiped her tears and said, "It's okay. With Second Brother here, you won't suffer today." Under the premise that he knew Qin Sheng's identity, he could still say such words, which showed that this man was really not simple. It seemed that he did not take Qin Sheng seriously at all, which was a little troublesome. The elite man wearing glasses also came over at this time and said somewhat viciously, "Second brother, do you know them?" The man looked at Qin Sheng and others, pointed directly at Qin Sheng, and said very contemptuously, "I only know him, not them." At this time, the man had already slowly walked up to Qin Sheng. Apart from him, there were two companions with cold expressions following behind him. These two companions were both male. They had a neat crew cut. The corners of their faces were very clear, and their eyes were filled with murderous intent. They seemed to be the man's bodyguards. After the man walked in front of Qin Sheng, he did not rush to greet Qin Sheng. He just glanced at the strong man lying on the ground and said angrily, "Get up. You are a disgrace. How can I explain to your grandfather later?" When the brawny man on the ground heard this, he endured the pain and crawled up. Then he stood dejectedly at the back of the crowd because there was nothing left for him to do. When this man appeared, everything was left to her. At this time, the two groups of people had separated, and it seemed that they were clearly separated. Jimin, Zhou Qi, and the other girls all stood behind, while Xia Ding and Yu Kefi naturally stood beside Qin Sheng. No matter what the result of today's matter was, after Qin Sheng had done this, they would support Qin Sheng without hesitation and would never let Qin Sheng bear the responsibility alone. Xia Ding asked in a low voice, "Boss, who is he?" Qin Sheng replied calmly, "It's okay. Leave it to me." After hearing this, Xia Ding and Yu Kefi finally felt at ease. If Qin Sheng did not have this confidence, he would not say such a thing. It seemed that the next thing would be interesting. The man, who was called Second Brother by the other side, finally faced Qin Sheng at this time. In fact, the man's appearance was ordinary. He was estimated to be less than 1.8 meters tall, and his figure looked well proportioned. However, he won in temperament, vaguely having a strong aura. It seemed that after coming here, he naturally became the focus of the crowd, and no one could despise him. "First, young Master Qin, I really didn't expect to meet you here. It's really interesting. Do you still have free time now?" The man squinted and teased. It seemed that he had already understood what this meant. Obviously, he was talking about the Qin family. This man actually knew the inside story of the Qin family, which was even more extraordinary. Qin Sheng was not surprised, because this man was really not simple. He was not inferior to Song Husheng and Su Xingwei. He was not a stranger. He was the first young Master Chun, whom Qin Sheng had met once. At that time, the two of them had quarreled with each other. He was one of the three most promising young men in Sijio City, Chun Taihe of the Chun family. So far, Qin Sheng had thoroughly fought with the three top playboys in Sijio City today. It was estimated that few people had such an honor. Needless to say, Song Hushing had never liked him. Although the Qin family and the Song family were friends, Song Hushing seemed to look down on him from the bottom of his heart, which made him a little puzzled from the beginning to the end. He did not know what the problem was. Su Xingwei could be regarded as Qin Sheng's old enemy. Originally, they should have been friends, because the Su family had interests in Chang'an. If these things did not happen later, Qin Sheng, as the heir of the Qin family, and Su Xingwei, as the future successor of the Su family, would definitely become very good friends because of the family relationship. At least, they could also be allies with interests. However, these things happened later. The Su family and the Qin family completely fell out. The Su family directly stood on the side of the sixth uncle and wanted to kill the Qin family. Su Xingwei even directly went to Shanghai to confront Qin Sheng. Now the relationship between the two sides was like fire and water, and it was estimated that they would fight fiercely in the future. The last one was Chun Taihe. Although Qin Sheng did not have any direct contact with Chun Taihe, they did not leave a good impression on each other when they met. Obviously, Chun Taihe's sister, Qin Ran, was in a different circle. They should also have conflicts, so they did not like each other. Therefore, it was impossible for Qin Sheng to become friends with this rich playboy. However, even if they could not become friends, they should not become enemies. After all, Chun Taihe had a powerful background and a bright future. It was not good to offend such an enemy. Unexpectedly, they met like this today. Qin Sheng also felt somewhat helpless. Fate made fools of people. If it were not for the matter of the Qin family, Qin Sheng could probably turn a big problem into a small one. However, because of the matter of the Qin family, Qin Sheng could only rely on the first young Master Qin today. He hoped that he would not offend the first young Master Qin too much. Qin Sheng quietly looked Chun Taihe up and down. Regardless of other things, this Chun Taihe was indeed a very powerful figure. Therefore, he could not look down on this opponent. Consequently, Qin Sheng chuckled and said, "It did not occur to me that I would meet the first young Master Qin here. I don't know whether it is good luck or bad luck. What I did not expect was that the first young Master Qin still remembers me. I'm so honored." Now, among the top playboys in Sijio City, even if they have not seen the first young Master Qin, how could I dare not remember you? Chun Taihe said sarcastically. After that, he turned around, looked at his companions, and said, "Do you know who this is?" Those rich playboys were somewhat confused. They had not seen this person before. However, since he dared to be so arrogant, he must not be simple. Consequently, they shook their heads subconsciously. Chun Taihe introduced slowly. "It doesn't matter if you don't know him. Just remember him in the future. He is the son of the famous Master Qin in Sijio City. Moreover, he is the heir of the Chang and group, which is as rich as a country. Don't you think he is powerful?" After Chun Taihe finished his introduction, those rich playboys behind him finally understood that this was the famous first young Master Qin. No wonder he was even more arrogant than them. If it were in the past, they could only accept the loss. After all, it was never too late for a gentleman to take revenge 10 years later. However, now that Master Qin and the Chang and group had been in trouble, where did this first young Master Qin get the confidence to be arrogant? Chapter 841. Shedding all pretenses, it did not occur to Qin Sheng that he would meet Chun Taihe. Neither did Chun Taihe nor Qin Sheng. They did not have much contact with each other. However, they met each other by chance and had such a big conflict. Judging from the current situation, it will be difficult for them to settle this matter peacefully. As for Chun Taihe, there was no need to introduce his background in detail. His name represented everything. Not everyone could be compared with Su Xingwei and Song Hushing. The beautiful woman who started the fight was called Lu Yu. She graduated from the Imperial Polytechnic University in the UK and was now an executive in a private equity company in the financial street. Her grandfather had retired and was now the deputy director of a committee in the National People's Congress. Before he retired, he had been a high-ranking official in a frontier province. That was why she could be so unscrupulous, and the others in the circle also flattered her. The elite man with glasses was called Shunjia. His family and the Chun family were old friends. His grandfather used to be Chun Taiha's grandfather's subordinate. Therefore, they had known each other since childhood. Although his family was not in Beijing now, he had a lot of connections in the neighboring Tianjin. Moreover, they were relatives in Beijing and Tianjin. Now, he was working in Beijing, so he was close to Chun Taiha. The last one was Wei Dongxiu, a strong man who often went to the gym to hook up with girls. His family did not have a strong background. However, his father happened to be Chun Taiha's leader, and he happened to be in a department with real power. His career prospects were bright, so Chun Taiha drew him into this circle. Wei Dongxiu was a loyal friend, so he was close to Chun Taiha's group. Therefore, in today's conflict, Miss Liu lost her temper and beat people. Wei Dongxiu, who had the lowest background, took the initiative to stand out in order to show off in front of Liu. The elite man, Shunjia, was calm and did not show up until the end. Everyone's identity determined what they would do. Now that Chun Taiha had shown up, they did not need to be afraid anymore. Qin Sheng's identity had been revealed. Finally, Liu could face Qin Sheng face to face. Since Chun Taiha was here, Shunjia and Wei Dongxiu did not need to take the first young Master Qin, whose family had declined too seriously. "Oh, it's you, young Master Qin. I was wondering why you had such a bad temper. My apologies, my apologies." Liu took the initiative to make things difficult for Qin Sheng and mock him directly. Shunjia and Wei Dongxiu did not say anything. They just looked at Qin Sheng with disdain. Their eyes were filled with pity and disdain, as if they were saying, "When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. How dare you show off here? Do you really not know how to spell the word death?" Before Qin Sheng could respond, Chun Taiha reprimanded him on purpose. "Liu Yi, who allowed you to talk like that? This is the first young Master Qin. We should be respectful, okay? Otherwise, you will be beaten up later. At that time, I won't be able to stop them." Liu Yi was Liu Yu's Xiaoming. Her family had called her that since she was a child. Later, her friends also called her that. Liu Yi was beautiful and had a good family background. After studying abroad, she was now working in the financial circle. Naturally, she was arrogant and looked down on everyone. "Second brother, I was wrong. I apologize to you, first young Master Qin." Liu cooperated and replied with grievances. Then she said with a smile, "I'm sorry, first young Master Qin. The little girl failed to recognize Mount Tai and offended you. I hope you can be magnanimous and forgive me. You have taught me a lesson today. I, Liu, will remember your kindness in the future." At this time, Shunjia and Wei Dongxiu also echoed with a smile. "First young Master Qin, we will remember your kindness." At this time, Qin Sheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. Speaking of acting, they were better than him. They cooperated very well and did not let him down. At this time, Xia Ding and Yu Kefi were a little worried again. The other party did not come with good intentions. After knowing Qin Sheng's background, he could still be so arrogant, which was really not simple. Moreover, he had already known about the Qin family. "First young Master Qin, no matter what happened, we have apologized. Are you satisfied now?" Chun Taiha said lightly. Then he stared at Qin Sheng. Since he had met Qin Sheng today, he should have a good fight with his first young Master Qin. Qin Sheng was expressionless. It was obvious that Chun Taiha was siding with his relatives, but not with reason. When he was about to respond, Chun Taiha suddenly said, "Now it's time to talk about you and us. You beat two of my friends. What should I say?" Oh, as expected, it turned out that they were waiting here. However, Qin Sheng chose to ignore Chun Taiha. Instead, he looked at Liu, who was behind Chun Taiha, and said, "You are not apologizing to me. You are apologizing to my friends." Hearing this, Liu said angrily, "Does she deserve it? How dare she make me apologize to her?" Behind Qin Sheng, Zhou Qi's face turned pale. Hearing this, she felt a little wronged. She finally understood what a certain senior had told her in the past. Even in the entertainment industry, people like them were nothing in front of the big shots with real power and influence. Qin Sheng said firmly, "No matter how beautiful a woman is and how good her family background is, if she is not educated, she is still an ugly soul. Shouldn't she apologize after doing something wrong?" I wonder who taught you this. Chun Taiha sneered and said, First young Master Qin, don't push your luck. Hearing this, Lu Yu was a little angry. Since she was a child, everyone had spoiled her. Even if she did something wrong, they would coax her. She had never seen anyone who dared to bully her like this. She pointed at Qin Sheng's nose and said, Who do you think you are? Do you think you are still the first young Master Qin? Do you really think you are someone important? Qin Sheng did not get angry because of their words. Instead, he sneered and said, I'm just making a point. The atmosphere, which had calmed down, became hostile again. Qin Taiha could not help but say playfully, Interesting, interesting. I didn't expect that the first young Master Qin would have such a bad temper. Instead of apologizing after hitting my friend, you actually want us to apologize. I really need to reason with you about this. Qin Sheng asked in reply, Do I need to reason with you? Qin Taiha was a little angry. Qin Sheng is really taking advantage of me. Does he really think that he is still the first young Master Qin? Your Qin family can't even protect itself. Without the Qin family, what are you? Chun Taiha looked at Qin Sheng and said, What if we don't apologize today? Qin Sheng said casually, It's very simple. She is my friend. If she apologizes, this matter will be over. If she doesn't apologize, let my friend return it to her, and this matter will be over. After hearing this, Chun Taiha laughed involuntarily and said, Qin Sheng, are you joking? Qin Sheng replied indifferently, Then just take it as a joke. Qin Taiha did not believe that Qin Sheng dared to hit Lu Yu in front of him. It was okay for him to not take Lu Yu seriously. However, if he did not take Qin Taiha seriously, he would be really unscrupulous. Even if the Qin family had not been in trouble, Chun Taiha would not take Qin Sheng seriously. Moreover, the Qin family had been in trouble now. Who was Qin Sheng? Chun Taiha said coldly, I don't believe that you dare to hit Lu Yu. Qin Sheng looked back at Zhou Qi and said with a smile, Qi, let me return this slap for you. Zhou Qi did not know what to say. The current situation had already gone beyond her imagination. She did not know what to do. She just looked at Qin Sheng blankly. Qin Sheng did not wait for her answer. He directly turned around and walked toward Lu Yu. Lu Yu was somewhat scared and took 2 steps back. Chun Taiha, who was standing beside her, said coldly, Qin Sheng, don't be so shameless. Chun Taiha had already planned to shed all pretenses of cordiality. He insulted Qin Sheng unscrupulously and did not take Qin Sheng seriously at all. Qin Sheng was not moved at all. He continued to walk forward. Lu Yu was so scared that her face turned pale. She said, You dare to hit me. My family will definitely not let you off. Qin Sheng was about to stand in front of Lu Yu. He chuckled and said, That's a matter for the future. After that, Qin Sheng took 2 more steps forward. He raised his arm and was about to slap Lu Yu. If he slapped her, what happened today would be completely out of control. Who knew how Lu Yu and the Lu family behind her would fight back? Chun Taiha did not dare to take this risk. If Qin Sheng really slapped her, he would definitely get involved in this trouble. Secondly, he would not be able to explain it to the Lu family later. Although he did not need to be afraid of the Lu family, he was Chun Taiha. What would others think of him? Qin Sheng was trying to take advantage of him. Consequently, Chun Taiha said angrily, Stop him. After hearing Chun Taiha's words, the 2 men who had been standing behind the crowd, who did not look like ordinary people, stood out without hesitation. They directly stood in front of Lu Yu and blocked Qin Sheng's way. Lu Yu finally let out a sigh of relief. However, she hated Qin Sheng more and more. The man with a buzz cut and an indifferent expression said calmly, Child Qin, don't make things difficult for us. Qin Sheng said with a smile, You want to stop me? The other man replied, Child Qin, don't force us to fight. Chun Taiha was already as steady as a mountain at this moment. Since Qin Sheng wanted to play hard, he could not blame him for being impolite. He had no choice but to use this method. As long as Qin Sheng dared to hit them, they would have a reason to do so. So what if they shed all pretenses of cordiality? It was because Qin Sheng dared to ignore Chun Taiha. As for the future, no matter who asked about this matter, he would have a reason to answer. That was because Qin Sheng only had himself to blame. Moreover, he was not afraid of the Qin family's counterattack. After all, The Qin family was already in trouble. Facing the two roadblocks, Qin Sheng said disapprovingly, "Do you think you can do that?" Originally, Qin Sheng wanted to make a big deal out of this matter. It was just a little bit. If he just let it go, he would not achieve his purpose at all. He would not have such an opportunity in the future. Not everyone could meet a top playboy like Chun Taihe every day. Since Chun Taihe had given him such an opportunity, how could Qin Sheng miss it? Consequently, after saying this, Qin Sheng took 2 steps forward almost subconsciously. Everyone stared at them. They did not know in which direction the situation would develop. They also did not know who would clean up the mess after Mars collided with Earth. Since Qin Sheng chose not to give face to Chun Taihe would not take Qin Sheng seriously either. After Qin Sheng continued to take 2 steps forward, Chun Taihe gave him a determined look. The 2 trusted subordinates almost took action at the same time, facing Qin Sheng directly. Qin Sheng seemed to be in danger. Chapter 842. Are you sure? 1 against 2. Qin Sheng was in danger. The 2 buzz-cut men that Chun Taihe brought with him were not ordinary people. They might not be experienced in battles, but they were well-trained. If it was a working day, Chun Taihe would not take them with him. After all, it would not be good for him to take them with him, and he was not qualified to do so. However, as long as he went out, Chun Taihe would definitely take them with him. Only in this way could he feel at ease. He was not an ordinary person. He was the favored one whom many people had high hopes for. His life was more important than anyone else's. In particular, he had almost died in an accident before. Therefore, since then, Chun Taihe had been more concerned about his safety than anyone else's. Who would have thought that it would come in handy today? Chun Taihe did not believe that he could not stop an ordinary Qin Sheng. He did not want to fight with Qin Sheng either. Even though the Qin family was in trouble now, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Moreover, the circle of the Qin family was intricate. He did not want to offend Qin Sheng completely. It would be fine as long as they minded their own business. However, Qin Sheng was courting death. Then don't blame Chun Taihe. Even if he would be hated by others in the future, he would accept it today. On Qin Sheng's side, when the 2 men made their moves, the girls were all frightened. Zhou Qi was especially worried about Qin Sheng. After all, everything that had happened today was caused by her. She did not expect things to turn out like this. If Qin Sheng were to get hurt because of her, she really did not know how she would deal with it. Yukefi was also very worried. They dared to take action against Qin Sheng. As Qin Sheng's best friend, how could he sit back and do nothing? This was not his style. Anyway, it had been like this now. No matter how big the trouble was today, he would stand up and bear with Qin Sheng. He would never let Qin Sheng be in the front alone. Therefore, after they took action, Yukefi was ready to rush up to help. However, before he rushed up, he had been stopped by Xia Ding. Others did not know Qin Sheng's strength, but how could Xia Ding not know? Qin Sheng was a ruthless person who had escaped from death many times. How could he not deal with these 2 men? What was more, he and Yukefi were ordinary people. They were vulnerable to such a ruthless person. They could not help Qin Sheng, but would make trouble for him. Yukefi did not understand. "Third brother, what do you mean? Don't we help?" Xia Ding smiled and explained, "Don't worry, boss can handle it." "Don't worry. Boss can handle it?" Yukefi was confused. At this time, Qin Sheng had already started to fight with the 2 men with Buzzcut. When the 2 men made their moves, Qin Sheng subconsciously took 2 steps back. The rest of the people had already dispersed. Otherwise, they might be implicated by the fire at the city gate. The 2 men seemed to be holding back a lot. After forcing Qin Sheng to retreat, they were unwilling to attack again. However, Qin Sheng did not stop there. Instead of retreating, he directly rushed forward and punched the man on the left fiercely. The man did not seem to take it seriously and just casually used his arm to block it. However, at the moment when the 2 of them exchanged blows, he could feel how strong Qin Sheng was. He could not help but turn pale with fright. The man on the right wanted to stop Qin Sheng and grabbed Qin Sheng's shoulder. Qin Sheng turned around and forced the man to retreat. Then he punched directly on the man's chest. The huge impact directly made the man take a few steps back. His chest was so painful that he could not breathe. At this time, the man on the left had already attacked again. This time, he did not despise Qin Sheng. He already knew Qin Sheng's strength, so he took the initiative to attack Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng hurriedly dodged. The man pressed forward step by step. Before Qin Sheng could stand firm, a series of attacks made Qin Sheng unable to adjust the rhythm. After a few seconds, Qin Sheng finally found an opportunity. He must quickly solve the man's offensive. Otherwise, when the man on the right came back, he would be attacked from both the front and the back. At that time, the situation would be even more dangerous. Therefore, when the man's foot fell, Qin Sheng directly locked the man's ankle. Then, he leaned forward and hit the man's shoulder with his elbow. When the man wanted to retreat, Qin Sheng directly stepped on the man's knee, jumped up high, and hit the man's face with his knee. The man wanted to block it, but it was too late. Qin Sheng directly knocked the man over, and his whole face was bleeding in an instant. This process only took a few seconds. The man on the right had already returned. Taking advantage of Qin Sheng's unguarded, he kicked Qin Sheng's back, almost causing Qin Sheng to fall to the ground. The girls behind could not help but exclaim. They were so scared that they did not dare to breathe, for fear that Qin Sheng would be knocked down. Since Qin Sheng had already dealt with one of them, the pressure on him was instantly reduced. Although he had suffered a kick, it was not a big deal. After he staggered and stood firm, he subconsciously moved a few steps sideways. As expected, the man on the right had already sent another kick down from the sky, right at the place where Qin Sheng was just now. If Qin Sheng did not dodge in time, he would probably be seriously injured. Qin Sheng stared at the man who seemed to be a little flustered and exasperated, with a disdainful smile at the corner of his mouth. He was the only one left. Qin Sheng had nothing to be afraid of. Not far away, when Qin Sheng saw the man on the left, Chun Taihe and others were shocked. They did not expect Qin Sheng to be so powerful. Even if Qin Sheng just taught Shun Jie and Wei Dongshu a lesson, they did not think that Qin Sheng could face these two professional martial artists. Now, they had to re-examine the man in front of them. Was this really the young master of the Qin family who returned to the Qin family last year? On Qin Sheng's side, Yukefi was a little worried at the beginning. But when Qin Sheng showed his absolute strength, especially after Qin Sheng killed one of the men, Yukefi finally understood Xiading's words. Was this still the dormitory boss in college? How could he be so good at fighting? It was estimated that even the bodyguards at home were not his opponents. However, Qin Sheng did not care about what they thought. His current goal was to get rid of the last one. There was no need for him to exchange blows with them. He just needed to crush them. After all, they were not the protagonists. They were just Chun Taihe's lackeys. Therefore, after turning around, Qin Sheng suddenly jumped high and kicked the man on the right several times. The man did not expect Qin Sheng's explosive power to be so strong. He could only use his arms to block and take a few steps back. After Qin Sheng landed, he did not give the man a chance to catch his breath, nor did he give him a chance to fight back. Qin Sheng hit the man hard with his elbow with great force. In a hurry, the man could only stretch out his arms again to block Qin Sheng's attack. However, his arms had already withstood too much damage just now. How could he still block Qin Sheng now? Qin Sheng's elbow directly smashed the man to the ground. He wanted to push Qin Sheng away, but he did not have the strength to do so. Qin Sheng sneered and made him move again like lightning. He lifted his knee and hit the man's shoulder directly. The man no longer had the power to resist. He was directly knocked out by Qin Sheng and fell heavily to the ground. Qin Sheng did not stop there. What he wanted was to make the man completely lose his combat power and no longer be a threat to him. Therefore, Qin Sheng followed up again. At the moment when the man just fell to the ground, Qin Sheng was already in front of him. Without giving the man a chance to stand up, Qin Sheng knelt on his back fiercely. The man lay on the ground again. He realized that danger had come, but what could he do? The next second, a heavy punch hit the side of his face. The man instantly fell to the ground and fell unconscious. At this point, the two men with extraordinary skills were crushed by the abnormal Qin Sheng, leaving a group of people dumbfounded. No one had expected that the result would be like this. Apart from suffering some losses and getting some minor injuries, Qin Sheng was fine. Now, it was Chun Taihe who was embarrassed. He chose to fall out with Qin Sheng and directly used two ruthless people to deal with Qin Sheng. According to his plan, Qin Sheng could force Qin Sheng to retreat. If Qin Sheng sought his own death, he could do nothing but let them beat Qin Sheng back. At that time, Qin Sheng would naturally retreat and not dare to act rashly. However, he did not expect that the result would be like this. Qin Sheng was actually so powerful that even his two trusted bodyguards were not a match for him. They were defeated by Qin Sheng, just like that. At this moment, the expression on Chun Taihe's face kept changing. He did not know what to say for a while. The other people on their side were also scared silly. They stood there with a confused look on their faces, afraid that Qin Sheng would kill them. Since the two bodyguards were not a match for Qin Sheng, how could they be a match for him? Moreover, Shun Zhe and Wei Dongshu had already suffered losses from Qin Sheng. After finishing the fight, Qin Sheng let out a long sigh of relief. Fortunately, his skills were not rusty. Otherwise, he would have been disgraced today. If he had known that this would happen, he would have called Lao Chang, who was resting in the hall, over. Based on Lao Chang's skills, these two people were not even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. In this way, he would not have to fight them directly. After Qin Sheng came to himself, he looked at Chun Taihe and said, "Child Chun, is that all you have?" Instead of getting angry, Chun Taihe suddenly smiled and said, "Awesome. The first young Master Qin is really awesome. It did not occur to me that the first young Master Qin is also a martial artist. It seems that I underestimated you." Then, "Child Chun, will you still stop me?" Qin Sheng asked with a smile. Although his tone was quite casual, the meaning behind his words was quite obvious. "You could try to stop me again." Chun Taihe shrugged his shoulders and replied awkwardly, "Qin Sheng, are you threatening me? Why? Do you also want to beat me? You can have a try. I don't believe that you have the guts." Qin Sheng did not know whether to laugh or cry on purpose as he said, "Child Chun, we have neither enmity nor hatred in the past. Why should I beat you? Besides, how dare I beat you? You are the first young Master Chun. I really don't have the guts. But if I want to stop you, what should I do?" Chun Taihe still did not give up. It seemed that he was going to fight with Qin Sheng to death today. He wanted to see who would laugh in the end. Anyway, he had been slapped in the face by Qin Sheng today and lost his face. He was not afraid of anything anymore. He wanted to see how Qin Sheng would court death. Qin Sheng stopped smiling and replied directly, "That's another matter." Chun Taihe frowned and thought for a while. All of a sudden, he stepped aside and said in a playful tone, "Qin Sheng, since you want to do this, just do it. I won't stop you. However, I hope you can think about what kind of revenge you will bear in the future. Don't make it worse for the Qin family at that time. Don't blame someone for taking advantage of you when you are down." Qin Sheng was not moved at all. He did not even think about what Chun Taihe had said. He walked directly to Lu Yu, who was trembling in fear. She had heard what Chun Taihe had said. That was, Chun Taihe did not care about her anymore. Moreover, she did not even have the chance to run away now. Even if she wanted to run away, could she? Lu Yu said in a trembling voice, "What do you want to do?" Qin Sheng said calmly, "Since you still don't want to apologize, don't blame me for what I will do." Lu Yu did not know whether she was scared or wronged. Her eyes were already red and tears were streaming down her face. Was she really going to be beaten? Or did she choose to apologize? In this way, she would not know that she would be slapped in the face. She had never been wronged like this since she grew up. However, it seemed that if she apologized, she would feel worse than being beaten. No matter how hard she tried, she could not say anything to apologize. Consequently, Lu Yu chose to go all the way. That was, she was determined not to apologize. Even if she would be beaten, she would accept it. After all, she would not be killed. When she went back and complained to her grandfather, he would help her. She did not believe that she could not take revenge. Qin Sheng gave Lu Yu several seconds to think about it. However, Lu Yu still did not apologize. Qin Sheng had no choice but to raise his arm and was about to slap Lu Yu in the face. Chun Taihe and the others just watched. After Chen Taihe said those words, no one dared to stop Qin Sheng. He wanted to see whether Qin Sheng dared to do it or not. He did not believe that Qin Sheng was really a reckless fool. When the Qin family was in such a difficult situation, he still wanted to make things worse for the Qin family. After all, it was very easy for the Liu family to make trouble for the Qin family. At this moment, Zhou Qi, who had been hiding behind the crowd, finally could not bear the pressure anymore. She did not want Qin Sheng to offend these so-called big shots for her. Although she felt wronged after being slapped, she was just an ordinary person after all. It was not worth it for Qin Sheng to stand up for her. Moreover, she owed Qin Sheng such a big favor. How could she pay him back? Should she devote herself to him? It seemed that Qin Sheng did not like her. Otherwise, how could she have been refused by Qin Sheng when she offered herself to him that night? Consequently, Zhou Qi could not help but shout, "Master Qin, forget it. I forgive her." This sentence instantly drew everyone's attention to Zhou Qi, including Qin Sheng. Everyone stared at Zhou Qi with different eyes. It seemed that they did not expect that Zhou Qi would say that. Some people were confused, some people felt lucky, and some people did not understand. As for Qin Sheng, he looked back and stared at Zhou Qi for a few seconds. No one knew what he was thinking. After a long time, he asked, "Are you sure?" Zhou Qi cried and said, "Master Qin, it's not worth it. It's not worth it for you to do this for me." Hearing this, Qin Sheng sighed and shook his head helplessly with a bitter smile. Finally, he put down his arm and said to Xia Ding and Yu Kefi, "Let's go." Xia Ding and Yu Kefi's eyes were somewhat complicated. They did not know what was going on now. However, they quickly walked toward Qin Sheng and then followed him to leave. Ji Min and others also supported Zhou Qi and followed them. This farce came to an end. No one stopped Chen Taihe. However, Chen Taihe's eyes were somewhat sinister. He would remember what happened today. Chapter 843. This farce started and ended with Zhou Qi, which was quite interesting. What Liu did not expect was that Zhou Qi saved her in the end after she slapped Zhou Qi. However, according to Liu Yu's character, she would not feel grateful to Zhou Qi. Instead, she would hate Zhou Qi even more. This was the reverse psychology of human nature. As for Chen Taihe and his companions, they might have a good impression of Zhou Qi. At least Zhou Qi stopped the matter in time and did not cause the worst result. However, Chen Taihe and the others did not have a good impression of Qin Sheng at all. Today, they had become enemies. Chen Taihe definitely would not let it go. Otherwise, he would not be Chen Taihe. In the future, many people in Siju City would laugh at him. The group of people just watched Qin Sheng and his companions leave. No one dared to stop them, for fear that Qin Sheng would give in to them out of anger. Moreover, their backbone was Chen Taihe. They would do whatever Chen Taihe said. The strong man, Wei Dongxiu, asked angrily, "Second brother, are you letting him go like this?" Wei Dongxiu, the sturdy man, asked angrily. They had been thoroughly humiliated today, not to mention that Chen Taihe was there. If others knew about this, they would definitely laugh at them. Chen Taihe said coldly, "If we don't let it go, you go and stop him." Hearing this, Wei Dongxiu knew that Chen Taihe was really angry. He did not dare to say anything more, in case he angered Chen Taihe. At that time, the loss outweighed the gain. After Chen Taihe calmed down, he walked slowly to Liu Yu, who lowered her head and sobbed. He touched her hair gently and comforted her. "Liu Yi, have you ever been wronged like this before?" Liu Yu looked up at Chen Taihe. Then she covered her mouth and continued to sob. This was not wrong at all. This was obviously a great grievance and humiliation. Since you were a child, the elders and relatives in your family have always doted on you. No matter what you did, they would not beat or scold you. On the contrary, they would coax you. Later, in this big circle, these brothers and sisters also protected you. Needless to say, others would not do anything to you. However, you still have to grow up. If one day, without us, you will definitely suffer losses when you meet such a person again, right? Chen Taihe said calmly. This silly girl was pretty good except for her bad temper. She was a kind child who grew up in a greenhouse. However, kindness could not make up for other shortcomings, and kindness could not be the reason for other mistakes. This incident seemed to make Lu Yu understand many things. She said with red eyes, "Second brother, I got it." Chun Taiha patted Lu Yu's shoulder gently as he said, "Silly girl, don't worry. I won't let you suffer losses. Qin Sheng, I'll remember this. Since you've taken the initiative to provoke me, don't blame me for adding insult to injury." On the other side, Qin Sheng and the others left the stud farm directly and went back to the lounge directly. Chang Baji and the others were waiting there. Seeing Qin Sheng's somewhat embarrassed look, they hurried over and asked, "What happened?" Originally, Chang Baji and the others wanted to follow Qin Sheng. After all, they cared about Qin Sheng's safety more than anyone else. However, Qin Sheng stopped them and asked them to wait here. However, Qin Sheng did not expect that he would encounter what happened today. Fortunately, everything had passed. Qin Sheng smiled casually and said, "It's nothing. It's just a little trouble." Since Qin Sheng had said so, Chang Baji did not say anything more, which meant that things were under control. Xia Ding and Yu Kefi sat next to Qin Sheng at this time. Yu Kefi tentatively asked, "Boss, will there be any trouble?" Trouble? Chun Taiha was not an ordinary person. Today, he had slapped Chun Taiha's face. Chun Taiha had already given Qin Sheng face. Chun Taiha had already given him face by not attacking him on the spot. If this had happened in Sijio City, Chun Taiha would probably have made a big move. Chun Taiha was not afraid that Chun Taiha would have made a big move. Xia Ding did not expect Qin Sheng to make it sound so serious. It did not seem like he was exaggerating. However, there were some things that he did not understand. Since things could be so troublesome, why did Qin Sheng have to make such a big fuss? After all, it was really not worth it just for Zhou Qi. Secondly, why did the other party just let it go like this? Could it be that he just wanted to bear with it for a while? "Boss, where did they come from?" Xia Ding asked. Qin Sheng did not intend to hide it. He continued to explain, "I don't know where they come from. Have you heard of the first young master Chun called Qin Taiha?" Xia Ding had little contact with the circle of Sijio City. He shook his head and said he had never heard of it. He was a playful person. Most of the time, the people he knew were rich second generations from Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Shanghai. Moreover, his family was not as powerful as Yukefi's family. Xia Ding had little contact with the circle of Sijio City. He directly shook his head and said that he had never heard of him. He was a playful person. Most of the time, he knew some rich second generations in Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Shanghai. Moreover, his family was not as strong as Yukefi's family. It was normal that he did not know him. Yukefi was thoughtful. It seemed that he had heard this name from his friends. Those friends were not ordinary people in Jiangsu. They were the top childs in Jiangsu. It seemed that they respected this man very much. Was it really this man? Qin Sheng drank a glass of juice and explained with a smile. "No need to guess. It is him. There is only one Qin Taiha in Sijio City. I'm taking a risk today. However, risks and interest coexist. Wealth comes from danger." "Boss, don't keep us guessing. What is this guy's background?" Xia Ding was confused. He could not help but continue to ask. Qin Sheng looked up at Xia Ding and said with a smile, "What is his background?" Among the young people in Sijio City, he is one of the top 3 playboys, Chun Taiha of the Chun family, Su Xingwei of the Su family, and Song Hushing of the Song family. What is his background? "What the F*** CK, Xia Ding said subconsciously. He thought that no matter how powerful he was, it would not be beyond his imagination. But after hearing Qin Sheng's explanation, he really understood what kind of person they had provoked today. This was really stirring up a hornet's nest. Although he did not know Chun Taiha, he knew Su Xingwei. The first young master of the Su family could do whatever he wanted in Shanghai. No one did not give him face. He was also Qin Sheng's sworn enemy. He could be on an equal footing with the first young master of the Su family. It could be seen how powerful this guy was. "Boss, what should we do next? This young master can't just let it go, right?" Xia Ding was somewhat worried. It would be a lie if he was not worried. Qin Sheng said disapprovingly, "Different situations call for different actions. What should come will come eventually. What are you afraid of? Just wait. Boss, are you sure there is no problem? Yu Kefi frowned. If there was a problem, they did not want Qin Sheng to bear alone. Qin Sheng thought for a moment and replied, there is no problem. You go back to Nanjing and Shanghai tomorrow. I will deal with the rest. Don't worry. When Xia Ding and Yu Kefi heard Qin Sheng's words, they immediately disagreed. They were brothers. They should share weal and woe together. How could they abandon Qin Sheng at this time? What's more, the Qin family was in such a situation now. Boss, what do you mean? Are we that kind of people? Xia Ding immediately shook his head and retorted. Yu Kefi also echoed, yes, boss, if something really happens, we will bear it together. Bear it together? Can you bear it? Do you know what the price is? What about your family? Qin Sheng said directly, pouring cold water on Xia Ding and Yu Kefi. But Qin Sheng immediately said, don't worry. I have said that I can handle it. You can rest assured. What's more, I have my own purpose for doing this today. As for why, I have already told you the reason, so don't worry. You've already said it? Xia Ding and Yu Kefi said in unison, and then looked at Qin Sheng with a puzzled face. Qin Sheng did not explain. He just smiled and said nothing. The risk was a little big. Anyway, the Qin family had been like this. Even if Chun Taiha retaliated, how bad could it be? What's more, now how many people dare to get involved in the Qin family's affairs? Don't go for wool and come home shorn. Not far away, Ji Min and the other two beauties were comforting Zhou Qi. Zhou Qi's mood had gradually calmed down. She looked at Qin Sheng and others who were talking over there. She hesitated for a moment and finally summoned up the courage to walk over. When she walked in front of Qin Sheng, Zhou Qi, whose makeup had been ruined by crying, lowered her head slightly and said cautiously, Master Qin, I'm sorry. It's all my fault today. If it weren't for me, it wouldn't be like this. Thank you. I don't know what to say. Qin Sheng looked at Zhou Qi with soft eyes and said, why do you say sorry? It's all your fault today. Everyone probably knew why Zhou Qi had made that decision in the end, including Qin Sheng. However, others did not know Qin Sheng's thoughts, so they might have some complaints about Zhou Qi. After all, Qin Sheng had stood up for Zhou Qi. Zhou Qi had taken the initiative to give up in the end, which might have made Qin Sheng lose face. Master Qin, in the end, Zhou Qi did not know how to explain, so she had to say yes. Qin Sheng said with a smile, in the end, you did the right thing. I should thank you. Qin Sheng was telling the truth. Even in the end, he could not slap her in the face because he had already punished her. If he slapped her in the face again, he and Chen Taiha would really be like water and fire in the future. Originally, he could have given up, teased her, and then left. It did not occur to him that Zhou Qi would help him at the critical moment, so he could give up conveniently. In this way, it would be more natural. Therefore, he should thank Zhou Qi, who had hit the jackpot by accident. Hearing this, Zhou Qi was somewhat confused. She did not know what Qin Sheng meant. She frowned and said, Master Qin, you don't blame me? Qin Sheng shook his head with a smile and said, I don't blame you. All right, it's over. You don't have to worry about anything anymore. I'll deal with the rest. Thank you, Master Qin. Zhou Qi finally let out a long sigh of relief. She now had a high image of this man in her heart. She felt that no one could be compared to this man, especially when this man was fighting just now. He was so handsome. The farce was finally over. Qin Sheng and the others rested for a while and were ready to go back to the downtown. When they left the equestrian club, Chun Taiha and the others had already left. However, what had happened today was destined to brew slowly. Chapter 844. After Qin Sheng returned to the city that day, he asked Brother Wu to inquire more about Chun Taiha's movements. Although it was not easy to know too much about a big boss like Chun Taiha, he just wanted to know as much as he could, as long as Qin Sheng could prepare for a rainy day. In the evening, Qin Sheng saw Yu Kefi and Xia Ding off. Chao Yufeng also came over. They would go back tomorrow. The next time the four brothers got together would probably be when Yu Kefi got married. However, Qin Sheng estimated that he would meet Xia Ding soon. He had decided to go back to Shanghai the day after tomorrow. Anyway, He had nothing to do in Beijing now. He could go back to see Lin Su. If he did not go back, his girlfriend might not recognize him. Jimin, Zhou Qi, and several other beauties were also there. What they experienced today made these beauties have a lingering fear. Tonight could be regarded as a way to calm down. During this period of time, they got along quite well. Zhou Qi was somewhat afraid that Qin Sheng would take revenge on her. Qin Sheng comforted her, saying that she could call him at any time if anything happened. When they parted at night, Zhou Qi was somewhat reluctant. She wanted to say something to Qin Sheng several times, but she could not muster up the courage. In fact, Qin Sheng also knew what she wanted to say. So when she mustered up the courage, Qin Sheng took the lead and said, "Don't say anything. I know what you want to say. I don't know what your future life will be like, but try to keep a calm heart. I am not the kind of person you think, and we will not have too much interaction. I hope everything goes well for you." After hearing these words, Zhou Qi knew that Qin Sheng rejected her again. Maybe Qin Sheng was really not the kind of person she thought, or maybe a man like Qin Sheng would not lack women. Maybe she just did not have that qualification. Zhou Qi was somewhat regretful. At the same time, she completely relaxed and would not think about these things in the future. After Zhou Qi left, Jimin came out. She deliberately teased. "Did she confess her love to you again? You say that you are such an insensitive man. What do you know? Hurry up and go back," Qin Sheng said angrily. Compared with Zhou Qi, who was more thoughtful, he and Jimin got along more easily. After all, this girl was smarter than Zhou Qi. Jimin stuck out her tongue and said with a charming smile, "Can I play with you in the future?" "Let's talk about it in the future," Qin Sheng said casually. He would leave it up to fate in the future. Most people in life were just passers-by. People like him were even more like passers-by. Jimin did not ask much, nor did she pester him too much. Just as Qin Sheng had thought, although Jimin did not want to miss out on Qin Sheng, she knew what the reality was. She would just leave it to fate. Maybe she would forget about Qin Sheng after some time. Hence, Jimin smiled and waved at Qin Sheng, saying goodbye. After the beauties left, it was already late at night. During this period of time, it was not easy for Qin Sheng to be a rich playboy. He had to eat, drink, and have fun every day, in addition to acting, so he was quite tired. He had to admire those professional prodigals and rich playboys. Where did they get the time and the body? No wonder some people could be so easily drained by wine and women. When Qin Sheng returned to the Sihiyuan, Xiading teased him as he said, "It's the hardest to accept a beauty's kindness. Do you think I'm like you?" Qin Sheng said angrily. But now Xiading had turned over a new leaf. As for what would happen in the future, Qin Sheng did not know. He hoped that after this guy got married, nothing would happen to him because of his lifestyle. Yu Kefi said happily, "You guys, you'd better learn from me and my second brother." "Second brother? You don't need to say that. It's bronchitis. I've seen that sister-in-law. She looks quite gentle and elegant. But if second brother really dares to mess around, I guess she will dare to cut him with a knife." Xiaoding laughed out loud. Of course, he was joking. When brothers were together, as long as they did not talk about business, it was normal to joke around. Chao Yufeng stared at Xiaoding helplessly and said, "Okay, do you need me to tell your fiancée your story in the past when I see her next time?" Okay, second brother, I was wrong." Xiaoding immediately admitted defeat, which made Qin Sheng and Yu Kefi laugh out loud. In fact, he really did not take it seriously. Everyone knew what he was like in the past. He changed girlfriends more frequently than clothes. If he was not frivolous, it would be a waste of his youth. His girlfriend naturally knew some of his story in the past. In the end, they could still be together, which showed that they had weighed the pros and cons. Xiaoding was also clear about this. It was very late, and Chao Yufeng had to go back later. Qin Sheng smiled and said, "Then let's stop talking. You have to catch a flight tomorrow morning. Let's get together at the wedding of Lao Si next month." The next day, Qin Sheng left the Sihiyuan Hotel in advance. He did not go to see Xiaoding and Yu Kefi off. Instead, he asked Brother Wu to send them to the airport for him. Then he went directly back to the Sihiyuan of the Qin family. Anyway, there was no one at home during this time, so he did not have to worry about anything. Finally, he could rest for 2 days. During these 2 days, Qin Sheng did not leave the Sihiyuan. Most of the time, he read, exercised, and rested, ignoring what was going on outside. There were more and more gossip about the Qin family and the Chong system. However, the official media did not report this matter, which meant that everything was still in the game. As for the Chong and system, Qin Sheng had become more indifferent to it. Whoever was willing to fight for it, let them fight for it. As long as they did not go for wool and come home shorn, it would be fine. So many forces wanted to get involved, but the cake was only so big. Those sitting at the table were not willing to share it with others, while those sitting outside the table all wanted to have a seat at the table. In that case, let them fight for it. At least, they could restrain Lord Liu. Although Qin Sheng did not pay attention to what was going on outside, the conflict between him and Chun Taihe that day had been fermented. Many people already knew about it. At the same time, what he had done during this time was also known by many interested parties who had been keeping an eye on the Qin family. Those who hoped that the Qin family could get away with it by luck were somewhat disappointed, including many old friends who had been on good terms with the Qin family before but had to avoid the limelight now. However, the reactions of the Qin family's rivals were a little different. Some of them were gloating, thinking that the Qin family had given up and Qin Sheng had fallen. They were eager to see it happen. At that time, there would not be any resistance. Some people were more suspicious because Qin Sheng's sudden behavior was somewhat abnormal. Moreover, the other members of the Qin family had also left Beijing. There were only so many members of the Qin family. If all of them were to leave, it would be too abnormal. At noon, only Qin Sheng, Gongsun, and Chang Baji were at the dining table of the Qin family. Although they could ignore everything about the other members of the Qin family, Gongsun, who was the head butler of the Qin family and Qin Chang'an's #1 confidant, had to keep an eye on him. Gongsun knew much more than many people. Consequently, it was easier for him to share the burden with Qin Sheng and help the Qin family steer the ship. Gongsun asked in a low voice, "Are you really going to Shanghai?" Qin Sheng ate quietly and replied casually, "I won't stay for long. I'm a little worried about the old lady. I'm afraid that she will be suspicious, so it's better for me to go back. Moreover, there are still some trivial things that I have not finished dealing with. It's time for the song to end." Gongsun was somewhat worried as he said, "I'm afraid that the current situation is somewhat unsafe. Nobody dares to hurt you in Beijing because they have too many scruples. However, if you go to Shanghai, you have offended too many people in the past. Maybe someone will use a borrowed knife to kill you. At that time, everything will be over." He had to consider these things because Qin Sheng was the future of the Qin family. If something happened to Qin Sheng, the Qin family would be completely destroyed. Qin Sheng put down his chopsticks and drank a mouthful of soup as he said, "Uncle Gongsun, I will be careful. I won't go to places that I shouldn't go. Moreover, with Lao Chang by my side, there won't be any big problems. Moreover, Shanghai is almost the same as Beijing. If they really want to take action, they won't do it there. Taking a step back, if God really wants me to die, I can't escape no matter what. If God doesn't want me to die, I can do whatever I want to do." What Qin Sheng said at the beginning was naturally serious. However, what he said at the end could be considered as a joke. Gongsun nodded silently as he said, "Since you have decided, I won't say anything more. I will keep an eye on things in Beijing. If anything happens, I will contact you at any time." Qin Sheng had his own considerations. Since the Qin family had chosen to wait, they could only wait slowly. No one knew how long they would have to wait. After lunch, Qin Sheng called Oldie of the Qin family's guardian family. The old master was very concerned about the Qin family's affairs. He had reservations about what Qin Sheng had said. However, no matter what the Qin family did, the old master would support them. If they needed to do anything, they could just tell him at any time. As for the Zheng family, Qin Sheng had never contacted them again. However, the Zheng family had called him a few times. However, Qin Sheng did not answer them. He guessed that the Zheng family's attitude was somewhat contradictory now. If they did not recognize the Qin family as a guardian family and did not help them, they might be retaliated by the Qin family in the future. After all, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. However, if they recognized the Qin family as a guardian family, they would definitely help them. As for how much they could help, it depended on the Qin family's attitude. However, with the Qin family's current situation, who would dare to get involved? With the Zheng family's strength, if they got involved in this mess, they might not even know how they died. Therefore, the Zheng family was really in a dilemma. Qin Sheng could not be bothered with the Zheng family. Let them suffer on their own. Who asked the Zheng family to have such an attitude in the beginning? Qin Sheng had not met the last guardian family since the beginning. It was because he was not in a hurry to meet them now. So what if he met them? So what if he did not meet them? Therefore, he would meet them when he needed them. He hoped that it would not be the Zheng family. Qin Sheng did not have any hope for the others. In the afternoon, Qin Sheng finally set off for Shanghai. Unknowingly, he had been away from Shanghai for more than a month. This month's time passed rather quickly, but it made him a little exhausted. The most important thing was that there was still no result. This made him feel the most helpless. However, thinking that he was going to see Lin Su soon, Qin Sheng was still a little happy. After being separated for more than a month, it would be a lie to say that he did not miss her. It was just that Qin Sheng was not a man who liked to talk. Most of the time, he would only take action. As for Lin Su, Qin Sheng really loved her deeply. If it was not because the Qin family was in such a difficult situation, perhaps they would have already prepared to get married. When Qin Sheng was on the plane to Shanghai, the brother and sister of the Song family quarreled again because of the Qin family's matter. This time, Song Hushing's attitude was even more resolute. It was because in his eyes, he really looked down on Qin Sheng. Chapter 845. Since the Qin family listened to Zhu Qingwen's suggestion and chose to wait, if they did not listen to the gossips and rumors outside, everything seemed to calm down again. Except for Qin Chang'an's absence, it seemed that nothing had happened. The Qin family did not go around asking for information. They did not care about or participate in the interest disputes of Chang and's people. Everyone was not so tired anymore and resumed the most ordinary life. Everything was even weirder than the calm before the storm before the Qin family's accident. Now, Qin Sheng also left Beijing. The members of the Qin family, who had been in the center of the whirlpool, suddenly left Beijing. Everyone was somewhat confused and could not help but speculate about the conspiracy behind it. Could it be that the Qin family was plotting some unspeakable secret? As a result, many forces who had participated in or planned to participate in this storm had to reconsider. As for Qin Sheng, his story during this period had been known by many people, especially the conflict between him and Chun Taihe that day. After a few days of fermenting, everyone in the circle of Siju City knew about it. As expected, Qin Sheng was scolded badly. Many people said that the Qin family was really going to collapse this time. After Master Qin fell, could it be that the Qin family had to rely on such a wastrel to rise again? Was he reliable? Originally, many people had high hopes for Qin Sheng, but now they were really disappointed. On the contrary, it was weird that Chun Taihe's fame did not decrease but increased. Many people's impression of Chun Taihe changed. They thought that Chun Taihe had done a good job this time. Although he had a conflict with Qin Sheng, he did not hit Qin Sheng when he was down because of the current situation of the Qin family. If Chun Taihe really wanted to fight against Qin Sheng would definitely not be his opponent now. Therefore, Chun Taihe deserved to be one of the few people who had high hopes for him among this batch of young people in Siju City, because he was too good at handling affairs. Of course, some tycoons who knew Chun Taihe well believed that Chun Taihe would not leave it at that. However, Chun Taihe would not attack Qin Sheng now. He would definitely take revenge on Qin Sheng after the storm was over. Otherwise, given Chun Taihe's temper, how could he swallow his anger? All in all, this matter had become the topic of many people's discussion. Some people were guessing whether Qin Sheng was a hothead or had other reasons to have a conflict with Chun Taihe at this time. Wouldn't he take a step back and everything would be fine? Some people were also talking about Chun Taihe. They wondered if Chun Taihe would really let the matter go or wait for an opportunity to take revenge. Some people were also talking about Qin Sheng's fighting skills. They didn't expect this prodigal to be so powerful. It was said that even Chun Taihe's two trusted subordinates were no match for him. Could it be that Qin Sheng had been a soldier before or had learned from a master? No matter what others said, when this matter was spread to the Song family, Song Husheng was completely disappointed in Qin Sheng. The elders of the Song family might not know or care about the affairs of these young people, but Song Husheng and Song Ruyu already knew it. Song Husheng had often scolded Qin Sheng in front of others. Although he didn't like the Qin family, after all, the Song family and the Qin family were old friends. The Song family also hoped that the Qin family could tide over the difficulties. Moreover, Song Husheng used to like Qin Ran. However, Qin Sheng, the only hope of the Qin family, had brought disappointment to everyone. How could he not be angry? Song Husheng didn't know Qin Sheng, but Song Ruyu had more contact with him. She didn't think that Qin Sheng would be so naive. Moreover, Qin Sheng's behavior during this period was a bit abnormal. This was not the Qin Sheng she knew at all. Therefore, Song Ruyu felt that things might not be so simple. As for why Qin Sheng did that, Song Ruyu didn't know. However, as a friend who knew Qin Sheng better, she believed in him. After learning about this matter, Song Husheng didn't communicate with Song Ruyu. However, today was the birthday of an elder of the collateral branch of the Song family. This elder had been fond of Song Ruyu and Song Husheng since childhood, so they naturally came to congratulate him. That was how they met. Since they had parted on bad terms last time, the brother and sister hadn't seen each other during this period. They didn't communicate or contact each other. The elders of the Song family knew this more or less, but they didn't think it was a big deal. They would let the children deal with their relationship by themselves. Since they had met, Song Husheng naturally wanted to chat with his sister. Therefore, after the birthday celebration, Song Husheng waited for Song Ruyu. When Song Ruyu came out, Song Husheng quickly stepped forward and blocked her way. He said, "Ruyu, what's wrong? Are you still angry with me?" Song Ruyu glanced at Song Husheng and said in a very unfriendly manner, "What's the matter?" Song Husheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He replied, "When did we become so distant from each other? If you're not in a hurry, I want to talk to you. What do you think?" Song Ruyu hesitated for a moment and finally followed Song Husheng to the corner of the hotel lobby. After all, this was her brother. She couldn't go too far. Would they not meet again in the future? Moreover, there was nothing serious between them. She was just a little angry at Song Husheng's attitude last time. After ordering 2 cups of drinks, Song Ruyu asked politely, "What's the matter? Just say it." "Nothing. We haven't seen each other for a long time. I want to talk to you." At the same time, I apologize to you for what happened last time. At that time, my attitude was bad. Maybe I didn't have a good impression of the Qin family. Now, this bad impression has been extended to Qin Sheng, so I was a little impulsive at that time. Moreover, I didn't care about your feelings. After all, you and Qin Sheng are friends. Regardless of the trifles between the two families, it was wrong of me to say that to your friend. Song Husheng took the initiative to apologize to Song Ruyu calmly. This surprised Song Ruyu a little. She didn't expect that her brother would admit defeat so quickly this time. Since Song Husheng had apologized, Song Ruyu was not an unreasonable person. They had been getting along well since childhood. Even if there were any conflicts between them, Song Husheng would apologize first and let Song Ruyu go. In his mind, Song Ruyu was the family he cared about the most. After Song Husheng lowered his head, Song Ruyu also said in a low voice, "Well, I also did something wrong." Hearing this, Song Husheng said happily, "Well, let's forget about it. Don't be angry about an outsider anymore. To be honest, it's really unnecessary. I won't talk about him and the Qin family in the future. You are friends, so I won't stop you. But I will still treat him the same way, no matter in the past or in the future." Song Husheng's meaning was obvious. Although he had apologized, his attitude toward Qin Sheng was still the same. They would talk about their own things in the future, but they would not talk about this matter anymore. Song Ruyu stared at Song Husheng and said, "You despise him so much. What does he have that I like?" Song Husheng didn't hide his disdain at all. If he, the future hope of the Qin family, can turn the tide after the Qin family is in trouble, I will definitely approve of him. Because he is the real man in my mind. What about him? Before and after the Qin family was in trouble, what did he do? What can he do for such a big thing? Well, if you, Song Husheng, were in his shoes, what could you do? Do you think you could turn the tide? Song Husheng, you overestimate yourself. Song Ryu didn't expect Song Husheng's attitude to be like this. She argued again. Song Husheng sneered and said, even if I can't turn the tide, I won't be like him, a good-for-nothing who doesn't do anything and still causes trouble outside. I really don't know if Master Qin will die of anger if he knows it. Don't tell me that you don't know what happened 2 days ago. Shen Taihe has a good temper. If I were Chun Taihe, I would teach him a lesson. Song Ryu knew that her brother didn't come to her with good intentions. As expected, he took the initiative to bring up this matter in advance. It seemed that he came to see them make a fool of themselves. Song Ryu was displeased. Song Husheng, what do you mean? I don't mean anything. I just feel that this man doesn't deserve to be your friend, let alone your future husband. As long as I'm here, even if Grandpa has made up his mind, I will stop him. I will never see you jump into that fire pit, Song Husheng said firmly and clearly. That's right. Song Ryu laughed and said, did you come here to say this to me? No, I just want to apologize to you. After all, you are my sister. Song Husheng didn't want the atmosphere to be too stiff, so he took the initiative to ease the atmosphere. Song Ryu was very clear that she really couldn't persuade Song Husheng about the Qin family and Qin Sheng. Regardless of Song Husheng's other nonsense, she really couldn't accept his prejudice against Qin Sheng. Song Ryu wanted to say something, but in the end, she just sighed and said, brother, people say that you are better than Su Xingwei and Chun Taihe, and that you may go further than them in the future. But now I think you will let them down. What? Just because of my attitude towards Qin Sheng? Song Husheng restrained his temper and said in a low voice. If someone else had said this, he might not have been angry on the spot, but he would definitely remember that person. Song Ryu continued, do you really know him? Even though he had a conflict with Chun Taihe a few days ago, did you know what happened? How can you make such a blind conclusion? How long have you known him? How many times have you met him? Everything has just begun. Why can't you wait and see? Do I need to? Song Husheng asked back. Song Ryu stood up in disappointment and sighed to Song Husheng. Don't you need to? Didn't you ask why you have a prejudice against the Qin family? Why do you have a prejudice against him? Is it because Sister Qin Ran refused you? Or is it because of the marriage contract? Can you put aside all your prejudice and look at it in the simplest way? I think it won't be long before you know the truth. Then you can make a final conclusion. After saying this, Song Ryu directly left. Song Husheng didn't stop her. He couldn't help but be lost in thought. Was he really wrong this time? Chapter 846. Making trouble, they parted on bad terms again. No one had expected that the brother and sister of the Song family would have a conflict because of the Qin family and Qin Sheng. This was not the first time they quarreled, and it was getting worse and worse. In addition to what had happened last time, the relationship could not be eased in a short time. Song Husheng's subjective impression of the Qin family was too bad. Master Qin's barbaric growth in the capital circle over the years made him feel disgusted. This was also the main reason why the Song family would not help the Qin family. Old Master Song would not intervene in this matter. Old Master Song was already so old now. It was impossible for him to lose his integrity in his old age because of this matter. Therefore, Qin Chang'an did not ask the old master for help at that time. In many matters, everyone took the initiative to maintain a tacit understanding. They had a tacit understanding on many things. However, Qin Sheng did not understand it. Therefore, when he came to the Song family for the first time, he was not welcomed at the door as expected. As for the previous relationship with Qin Ran, it was insignificant. He was free to like Qin Ran. It did not mean that he did not like Qin Ran because he disliked the Qin family. However, it seemed that he handled Qin Sheng's matter differently. Maybe Qin Chang'an represented the Qin family before, and now Qin Sheng represented the Qin family. That was why Song Husheng acted like this. Song Husheng fell into silence, feeling that things were in a mess. Originally, The Song family had nothing to do with it. Why did he feel that the Song family was involved now? What went wrong? Was it only because of Song Ruyu? In the evening, Qin Sheng finally arrived in Shanghai. After getting off the plane, he went straight to the Lin family's company. This time, he did not tell Lin Su about his return to Shanghai. Of course, he wanted to give her a surprise. Otherwise, it would be meaningless if he took the initiative to tell her. Fortunately, Lin Su was now in China. If she was abroad, Qin Sheng would not be able to go there. Based on the current situation of the Qin family, the relevant members of the Qin family were naturally restricted from leaving the country, so they could only wander around in China. The headquarters of Lin's group will be moved to Shanghai at the end of next month. The group's headquarters was in Pudong, but not in the Lujiazui financial district. Fortunately, there were office buildings everywhere in Pudong, so it was not difficult to choose a location. It happened that a group withdrew from Shanghai to Hangzhou, so they chose that place directly. Even the decoration would only take 2 months, so the overall relocation would be done next month. At present, everything was relatively smooth. Lin Su was still working at Poly Plaza. But in order to get through this special period, the Lin family rented 2 whole floors of Poly Plaza. So now, Lin Su had to deal with a lot of things. It could be said that she was extremely busy. Things in Ningbo had been settled by the elders of the Lin family. After all, they had been friends for so many years. Even if they could not get help from the city, they still had connections in the province. It was even easier in Shanghai. After all, the Zhu family was supporting the Lin family behind the scenes. Zhu Qingwen regarded Lin Su as Qin Sheng's future daughter-in-law. Naturally, he would help Lin Su deal with some things. Moreover, when a big group moved its headquarters to Shanghai, it would be welcomed by the government. Compared with the depressing Beijing, Qin Sheng was more familiar with Shanghai. After all, he had stayed in this city for so many years. Many places had left him good memories. He could often think of some old friends' stories. In fact, when he went to college, Qin Sheng also considered going to Beijing. Su Qin had no objection. It seemed that it was okay to go to Beijing or Shanghai. Anyway, with their grades, they could go anywhere. However, Lin Shi directly rejected Qin Sheng's idea. Lin Shi suggested Qin Sheng to go to Shanghai. Qin Sheng finally chose Shanghai. When Qin Sheng and the others arrived at Poly Plaza, they had just gotten off work. Qin Sheng was very clear that Lin Su would not go back so early. Naturally, she would work overtime in the company. It was still the same when he was in Shanghai. However, Qin Sheng was still a little worried. He was afraid that Lin Su would have some social activities. Therefore, on the way, he asked Chang Baji to ask the bodyguards of the Qin family in Shanghai. They were responsible for protecting Lin Su. They said that Lin Su did not have any social activities today. She was still working overtime in the company. Qin Sheng was relieved. Qin Sheng took Chang Baji to the floor where the Lin family's company was located. As expected, they were stopped at the door by the receptionist who had not yet gotten off work. When Qin Sheng was about to explain, Lin Zhe happened to come out of the company. After seeing Qin Sheng, he was stunned for a few seconds. It seemed that he did not expect that Qin Sheng would appear here. Qin Sheng should be busy with the Qin family's affairs in Beijing. He knew about these things. However, no matter why Qin Sheng suddenly appeared here, Lin Zhe came to his senses and waved to the receptionist, indicating that they did not need to worry about him. He quickly walked over and was very surprised. "When did you come back?" Qin Sheng smiled politely and said, "I just arrived in Shanghai. I came here directly. Su is in the office. I'll take you there." Lin Zhe did not dare to say too many polite words to Qin Sheng. He was still a little afraid of this son-in-law. Moreover, he knew that Qin Sheng came to the company to look for Lin Su. Otherwise, he would not be looking for him. Therefore, he said so directly. Qin Sheng nodded slightly and followed Lin Zhe to the innermost part of the company. On the way, Qin Sheng said casually, "Are you free tonight? Let's have dinner together." This was an olive branch that Qin Sheng took the initiative to offer. Lin Zhe wanted to take it subconsciously. No matter how many rumors there were about the Qin family, Lin Zhe felt that it was not a bad thing to keep in touch with his son-in-law. However, he still knew his limits. Qin Sheng came to the company to look for Lin Su as soon as he came back to Shanghai. He definitely did not tell Lin Su that he was coming back. At that time, the young couple would definitely be intimate when they met. After all, they had not seen each other for so long. How could they not miss each other? If he stayed, wouldn't he become a third wheel? Therefore, Lin Zhe smiled and declined politely. He said that he had an appointment with a leader in the evening. Qin Sheng did not insist. He said that they could do it another day. After bringing Qin Sheng to the door of Lin Su's office, Lin Zhe slipped away directly. Lin Su's secretary had seen Qin Sheng before. Naturally, she knew that this handsome guy with a mysterious background was the boss's boyfriend. Only such a man could match up to the goddess in their hearts. The secretary asked Qin Sheng with her eyes if he needed her to go in and inform him. Qin Sheng smiled and waved his hand to reject. Then, he walked straight to the door and knocked a few times. When he heard the sound of Lin Su coming in, he slowly walked into the office. Lin Su's office was not very big. She had never liked to be so exaggerated. She only wanted it to be practical. However, the decoration of the office was designed by her. The modern art and abstract oil paintings were also chosen by her. Therefore, although the office was not big, it was very tasteful. At this moment, Lin Su was looking down at the financial documents related to the subsidiary company. Her long hair was tied up casually with an ordinary hairband. From this angle, Lin Su had a special charm when she was serious. Therefore, not only was a serious man charming, but a serious woman was also very attractive. Qin Sheng did not say anything. He just stood at the door and quietly admired Lin Su at this moment. He rarely saw Lin Su like this. It seemed that he had returned to the Lin Su when he first met her. Or maybe it was because Lin Su intentionally or unintentionally hid herself when they were together later. Therefore, he felt that Qin Sheng was so dazzling and Lin Su was just a foil. In fact, Lin Su was equally outstanding. After a long time, Lin Su felt that someone came in but did not say anything. She thought that the secretary was afraid of disturbing her, so she asked without raising her head, "What's the matter?" Qin Sheng thought that Lin Su was too engrossed and forgot that someone came in. At this moment, he said in a slightly teasing tone, "Boss Lin, can I treat you to dinner?" Lin Su frowned subconsciously. From her expression, it could be seen that Lin Su was obviously a little unhappy. Because Qin Sheng deliberately changed his voice, Lin Su did not recognize whose voice it was. She slowly raised her head and was about to see who was so bold as to actually come into her office. However, the moment she raised her head, Lin Su was directly stunned, because the person in front of her was her sweetheart. Lin Su's expression froze from displeasure, then froze to doubt, and finally from doubt to surprise. When she came back to her senses, Lin Su almost instinctively stood up and walked over. The more she walked, the faster she walked. In the end, she directly threw herself into Qin Sheng's arms. At this moment, Lin Su was no different from any other woman in love. She was completely different from the temperament goddess just now. Qin Sheng also smiled happily. The depression during this period had already disappeared without a trace at this moment. At this moment, he did not need to think about anything. He only needed to hold Lin Su, because this was the harbor of his soul. After a long time, Lin Su calmed down. She did not say anything, just hugged Qin Sheng tightly. During this period, she really missed Qin Sheng, and at the same time, she was very worried about him, because she knew what Qin Sheng went back to do. She also knew that Qin Sheng would not come back in a short time, so she did not expect that Qin Sheng would suddenly come back to Shanghai. This was really a surprise for her. At this moment, Lin Su realized that Qin Sheng did not close the office door. A few heads were sticking out at the door and laughing secretly. They were all her members in the president's office. They definitely had not seen her like this on usual days. So Lin Su was very embarrassed and let go of Qin Sheng. She glared at them, then quickly walked over and closed the office door. Only then did she let out a long sigh of relief. Who knew that as soon as she turned around, she would be hugged by Qin Sheng from behind? Qin Sheng murmured, "Did you miss me?" "Yes," Lin Su said in a low voice. This word was full of tenderness. Then she asked, Why did you suddenly come back? Qin Sheng let go of Lin Su and sighed. He said thoughtfully, it's a long story. Let's go to eat first. You must be hungry. I will tell you slowly later. The man she loved the most had come back. For Lin Su, work was not essential anymore. So Lin Su chose to get off work without hesitation. She was taken by Qin Sheng to a restaurant with a good environment nearby to eat. Qin Sheng and Lin Su were enjoying the world of two people in Shanghai, which they had not seen for a long time. At a barbecue stall in an alley in Beijing, there were also two people enjoying the world of two people. However, they were both men. Moreover, Qin Sheng knew both of them. To be exact, they were quite familiar with each other. The most important thing was that both of them had conflicts with Qin Sheng, because one of them was Su Xingwei and the other was Chun Taihe. These two big shots were sitting together. It was obvious that they were going to make trouble. Chapter 847. Among this group of young people in Siju City, Song Husheng, Su Xingwei, and Chun Taihe were the three most famous ones. Regardless of family background, personal ability, prestige, and connections in the circle, they were enough to make other young people look up to them. Therefore, many tycoons appreciated them and had high hopes for them. Now, their official careers were on the right track. Even if they followed the prescribed order, as long as they did not make any big mistakes, they would definitely become high-ranking officials in the future. That being said, life was full of too many accidents. The higher they were praised, the more miserable they might fall. They knew this very well. Therefore, they were somewhat disgusted with becoming stars among the young people. They always thought that this might be deliberately done by others, because it was necessary to keep a low profile. After all, it was not a good thing to be too high profile. Tonight, at the barbecue stall in an ordinary alley, two of the three most famous ones were sitting there. If Song Husheng was also there, it would be really lively. Those who did not know would think that something big had happened. After all, they belonged to different circles and rarely got together on ordinary days. Most of the time, they could only get together at official or semi-official conferences and banquets. Perhaps because the barbecue stall was located in the alley, the business was a little bit quiet. However, the boss was still enthusiastic. It seemed that he did not frown because of the poor business. On the contrary, he greeted the only 3 or 4 tables of customers with a smile on his face. Occasionally, he would drink with the customers. This life was quite interesting. Su Xingwei was a frequent customer here. He would come here several times every summer. Previously, his family lived nearby, but later moved away with the promotion of his elders. When Su Xingwei did not know the identity of the boss, he had advised him several times, saying that the taste of the barbecue was not bad. Why didn't you open a shop? There were not many people in this alley. If you relied on barbecue to support your family, you would starve to death. If you don't have money, I can invest in you. The boss replied with a smile. I'm not short of money. In the past, my family had lost 7 or 8 houses due to demolition. I still have other businesses, but I learned this skill from my father. The neighbors in the alley all like to eat our barbecue. Now that my father has passed away, if I don't do it, not only will I lose this skill, but everyone will also not be able to eat it in the future. It doesn't matter if I have money or not. If I really have no money, I can sell a house. I just like to chat and drink with everyone. When Su Xingwei heard this, he naturally shut up. He wasn't short of money, he just liked this kind of lifestyle. Therefore, every time Su Xingwei came, he would have a drink or two with the boss. Once, there was a group of people who deliberately came to find trouble with the boss. Later, Su Xingwei had to help him deal with it. Little Su, how's the taste today? Is it spicy enough? The boss personally delivered the dishes ordered by Su Xingwei and asked with a smile. Su Xingwei, who was wearing slippers and big underpants, replied, Uncle, you definitely taste good. Give me 5 more chicken wing tips. Let's have a drink when there's no one around. The boss left smilingly as he said, Okay, you go ahead with your business. Opposite Su Xingwei, Chun Taihe was drinking with a gloomy look on his face. Recently, he didn't have a good appetite. After eating a few skewers of barbecued meat, he stopped moving his chopsticks. He just waited for Su Xingwei to come straight to the point. They were definitely not enemies, but they were not friends either. They rarely met each other. Seeing that Chun Tai has stopped eating, Su Xingwei frowned and asked, "Why don't you eat? Is it not tasty?" Chun Taiha replied casually, "It's not bad. It's just that I don't have an appetite. If you have something to say, let's talk about it. If not, I'll go back early." Su Xingwei picked up his glass and took the initiative to clink glasses with Chun Taiha. Among them, Chun Taiha walked the fastest. However, Su Xingwei felt that Chun Taiha walked unsteadily and seemed to be a little anxious. In contrast, he and Song Hushing walked very steadily, one step at a time. No matter whether it was their resumes or their achievements, no one could find fault with them. "Lao Chun, why are you in such a hurry? We haven't seen each other for a long time. Can we talk about the old days?" Su Xingwei smiled happily. Of course, Su Xingwei would not put on airs in front of Chun Taiha, because the two of them were well matched in strength. Chun Taiha said in an unfriendly tone, "What old days do we have to talk about? We are not the same kind of people." Su Xingwei said thoughtfully, "How can you say that? We are going to the same destination by different means. Many things are uncertain. However, we're not capable of changing many things now. Don't you think so?" Chun Taiha said disapprovingly, "Maybe in the future, but definitely not now. If you have anything to say, you'd better say it earlier." Su Xingwei began to persuade Chun Taiha patiently as he said, "Lao Chun, it seems that you are not in a good mood. Is it still because of that matter? If you feel uncomfortable, I'll help you vent your anger." Su Xingwei began to persuade him patiently. Upon hearing Qin Sheng's words, Chun Taiha finally revealed a smile that he had not shown for a long time. However, this smile was somewhat thought-provoking. He raised his head and chuckled as he said, "Oh, it turns out that you are waiting for me here. What? Do you want to ridicule me, or do you have other plans?" Su Xingwei did not know whether to laugh or cry as he said, "Lao Chun, look at what you said. Am I such a person?" Chun Taiha stared at Su Xingwei and asked, "Aren't you?" While eating the barbecue, Su Xingwei asked casually, "Let's not talk about other things. Lao Chun, let's just talk about how you're going to deal with this matter. Are you going to let it go? You and I both know the current situation of the Qin family. If Qin Sheng dares to provoke you, he will be courting death." Chun Taiha said happily, "What? Are you going to stand up for me?" Su Xingwei shook his head as he said, "Not really. I have been displeased with him for a long time. Now that he has offended you, I think he thinks that we are easy to bully. I really don't know who has the final say in Siju City. We should teach him a lesson and let him know how to be a man at this time." Chun Taiha sneered at Qin Sheng openly as he said, I finally understand why you came to me today. It turns out that you want to kill someone with a borrowed knife. Isn't it too crude?" Su Xingwei pretended to be confused as he said, "What do you mean? Lao Chun, I don't understand." Su Xingwei, others may not know some things, but I know them better than anyone else. You have forgotten who you are and who I am. You are Su Xingwei, and I am Chun Taiha. Is it really difficult to know some things?" Chun Taiha did not intend to see Su Xingwei's acting. He directly laid out his cards as he said, "If nothing happened to Master Qin, I think you should be drinking and chatting happily with Qin Sheng now. After all, the two families were not far apart before. Now that something happened to Master Qin, you immediately quarreled with Qin Sheng. Is this your idea or the idea of your family? Don't think that I don't know what happened to you in Shanghai. Don't think that I don't know what happened to the Su family in Chang'an. Even I know it. How can others not know it?" After saying this, Chun Taiha felt very comfortable. Then he gulped down a glass of wine and picked up the barbecue leisurely. It seemed that his appetite had been aroused. Su Xingwei's expression kept changing. After a while, he said, "Alas, I thought that if you know it, you will know it. My family did not hide it." Chun Taiha said meaningfully, "Old Su, your table manners are too ugly. You can't eat the Chong and people." Su Xingwei sneered. "How do you know? If you don't believe me, let's have a try." Chun Taiha was confident. It seemed that he had already seen through the truth. Su Xingwei did not want to be entangled in this matter. He just wanted to talk with Chun Taihe about Qin Sheng. Since Qin Sheng kept courting death, he should not blame him for giving him a ride. Therefore, Su Xingwei took the initiative to find Chun Taihe and do him a favor. In fact, there was another thing. Su Xingwei and the tycoon behind him wanted to know what Qin Sheng wanted to do, or what the Qin family wanted to do. Some time ago, the Qin family had been doing all kinds of things for this matter. During this period, all the members of the Qin family suddenly made peace with each other and left Beijing. What on earth was going on? Su Xingwei and the tycoon behind him had no idea. They could not help but be lost in thought and began to guess. It was impossible to guess, so Su Xingwei decided to sound it out. Su Xingwei continued, "Let's not talk about this. Let's talk about that thing. Are you really going to let it go?" Chun Taihe chuckled and said, "That's my business. It has nothing to do with you. Let's not talk about this." Su Xingwei said calmly, "Old Chun, you are too suspicious. I just said that if you want to vent your anger, you can drag me into it. I know more than you do. Maybe we can cooperate. That's all." Chun Taihe squinted and asked, "Are you sure you won't kill him? Do you think so? Qin Sheng dares to offend you, but I dare not." Su Xingwei laughed and said, both of them were not easy to deal with. Now that they were together, Qin Sheng really did not know what kind of trap they would set for Qin Sheng and how he would deal with it. However, at this moment, Qin Sheng did not care about these things. He would think about it when he returned to Beijing. He would stay in Shanghai for a few days. After dinner, Qin Sheng and Lin Su went home. Everything was so warm when they returned to the familiar environment. Qin Sheng felt that he had a more sense of belonging here than in Beijing. However, before he could feel anything, the newlyweds had already been entangled together. They were destined to talk about the pain of lovesickness tonight. In the morning, when Lin Su woke up, it was almost 9 o'clock. She might not be able to go to the company today. At this time, she found that Qin Sheng had disappeared. She got up in a hurry and went to find him. When she saw Qin Sheng was cooking in the kitchen, she was finally relieved. She thought that what happened yesterday was a dream. However, thinking of their crazy behavior last night, Lin Su felt a little shy. She had not been like this for a long time. She should be more reserved in the future. "You're up? Have some breakfast. Let's go to see Grandma later." Qin Sheng walked over and held Lin Su's hand. Breakfast was simple bread, milk, and fruits. Anyway, when they arrived at Grandma's place, there would be a sumptuous lunch. The simple breakfast made Lin Su feel very happy. This man still loved her so much. What was he like in the past? He was still the same now. After breakfast, Qin Sheng waited for Lin Su to pack up and went out. Small Aunt knew that she had returned to Shanghai, so she would go there at noon. The most important thing was that apart from Small Aunt, Small Uncle's husband would also go there today. This inevitably made Qin Sheng a little nervous. Chapter 848. Facing the problem alone, the weather forecast said that a typhoon would come soon. Qin Sheng still remembered the typhoon he had experienced in college. It should be the most powerful typhoon in Shanghai in the past 20 years. At that time, everyone stayed in the dormitory and did not dare to go out for fear that they would be blown away by the typhoon. However, Su Qin's gastritis broke out, and she was in so much pain in the dormitory. Although it was noon, it was still dark outside. The wind was blowing hard, and the rainstorm was coming, as if doomsday was coming. Su Qin's roommates wanted to call Qin Sheng, but Su Qin insisted on not letting them. In such a weather, accidents could easily happen. She did not want Qin Sheng to take risks for her, so she could only endure it. However, illness came like a landslide. It was not easy to endure it. In the end, Su Qin's roommates could not stand it anymore, so they called Qin Sheng. When Qin Sheng received the call, he was ready to rush out without hesitation. After several other people in the dormitory asked him what was going on, they finally decided that Xia Ding would drive and Chao Yufeng would accompany him. Only then did they let Qin Sheng send Su Qin to the nearest hospital. This city was still the same city, but those people were not the same people anymore. Those stories had also been scattered with the wind. As people walked, they also disappeared. Actually, many old friends who had been with each other day and night had already seen each other for the last time. Since then, they had disappeared in the vast sea of people. When Xia Ding went to Shanghai last time, he told Qin Sheng that there would be a classmate gathering in Shanghai in a period of time. All the classmates were familiar with him at that time. Xia Ding said that he would go to join the fun and see if he could break up a couple. Qin Sheng happened to be back in Shanghai this time, so he suddenly wanted to join the fun at that time. Qin Sheng and Lin Su arrived at Sinan Road just after 10 o'clock. In fact, Qin Sheng liked the feeling of staying in the old district of Shanghai for a long time. It seemed that this was the real charm of a city, unlike Pudong, which only had skyscrapers, which were breathtaking at first glance. No wonder those tycoons liked to live in garden houses in the old district. Qin Sheng thought that when he was old, he could also buy such a house in Shanghai and come here for a few months every year. It was actually quite good. During this period of time, Lin Su was almost always wearing professional attire. Today, she could finally wear something more relaxed and comfortable. She wore a simple printed white t-shirt, white jeans, and high-heeled sandals. The most important thing was that she and Qin Sheng were wearing couple attire. When she was shopping, she also bought a set for Qin Sheng. Although Qin Sheng was not in Shanghai during this period of time, Lin Su bought a few sets of clothes for him when she went shopping with her best friend. To be honest, Qin Sheng was quite happy in the past 30 years. When he was young, Annie Wang bought clothes for him. When he grew up, Annie Wang and Xin often bought things for him when they went shopping. Later, he had Su Qin, who did not care about him as much as Annie Wang did. Now he had his sister, Lin Su, and so on. Anyway, he never had to worry about wearing clothes. The green parasol trees, the mottled old walls, and the rusty iron gate told the stories of each family. The towering trees in the courtyard hid many secrets. Every time Qin Sheng walked to the door of such an old foreign-style house, he would always think about how much history these green bricks and gray tiles had witnessed. People came and went endlessly. The only thing that did not change was listening to the stories of each family. They were neither sad nor happy, and they would still be the same even after 10 or 100 years. In the living room of the old foreign-style house, the old lady had been waiting for a long time. Hearing that Qin Sheng had returned to Shanghai, the old lady was as happy as a child. She had packed up early and waited for Qin Sheng and Lin Su to come over. When the servant went to buy vegetables, she even reminded them to buy fresh vegetables and so on, which made people laugh. Zhu Qingwen had also come over with the child. They were chatting with the old lady, but the governor wasn't around at the moment. He would only be able to come over at lunchtime. After all, he was a busy man. To walk this path, one had to give up a lot of things. If one wanted to go further, one had to give up even more things. As for what they had obtained, everyone had their own answer. Before Qin Sheng and Lin Su came in, the nanny said to the old lady, "Old lady, they are here." Hearing this, the old lady stood up with a smile. The wrinkles on her face seemed to have disappeared a lot. Qin Sheng and Lin Su did not dare to let their grandmother welcome them. They walked over quickly. The old lady held Qin Sheng's hand and shouted, "Oh, why did you lose weight again? Are you not used to the climate in Beijing? I was wondering why you went to Beijing. Shanghai is more comfortable than Beijing. I like staying in Shanghai." The old lady knew that Qin Sheng had stayed in Shanghai for a long time. He had only stayed in Beijing for a few months. Therefore, she said that Qin Sheng was not used to the climate in Beijing. At this time, the old lady had no time to care about her granddaughter-in-law. After all, she had not seen her grandson for more than a month. During this period, Lin Su had come over 2 or 3 times. The old lady felt that since they were family, she did not need to be so polite. Therefore, the old lady held Qin Sheng's hand and talked for a long time. Then she paid attention to Lin Su beside her and praised her with a smile. It was enough for her to be treated like this by the old lady. Lin Su greeted the old lady with a smile. In the end, she was pulled away by her small aunt, Zhu Qingwen, who said that the old lady missed her grandson and asked Qin Sheng to chat with her for a while. As soon as Qin Sheng sat down, the old lady gave him fruits and snacks. Qin Sheng did not dare to refuse. They chatted while eating. The old lady asked him what he was going to do in Beijing. Then she asked him why he had been there for so long. Then she asked if he would go there again. She kept asking questions like a child. Qin Sheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. However, he was so touched that he had nothing to say. Grandma really loved him. It was not until more than half an hour later that the old lady let Qin Sheng go. Then she chatted with Lin Su. At this time, Zhu Qingwen went to the kitchen. Qin Sheng followed her into the kitchen. In the kitchen, the housekeeper had just started to prepare lunch. Qin Sheng and Zhu Qingwen helped to wash and cut the vegetables. Then they talked about these casual topics. I did not expect that you could really persuade your aunt. Zhu Qingwen was a little amused. She knew the temper of the eldest daughter-in-law of the Qin family. She had seen it before. It was really difficult for her to listen to the advice of the Zhu family. Qin Sheng replied, honestly, we did not persuade her. It was Uncle who persuaded her. She still believes in Uncle. Uncle quite agrees with your advice. Oh, that uncle of yours is willing to come out of retirement? Zhu Qingwen was very surprised. She knew that Qin Sheng had gone to find Qin Chongqing, but she did not know that it was Qin Chongqing who had persuaded Zhao Anji. Zhu Qingwen was not unfamiliar with Qin Chongqing. He was an influential person in the past. It was just that he made people sigh a little. If Qin Chongqing had not gone into seclusion because of the matter of the Qin family, maybe today Qin Chongqing alone was enough to make people not dare to look down on the Qin family. Maybe Qin Chang'an would not have taken this path. Everything was fate. Inadvertent things could change many people's lives. Qin Sheng shook his head and said, Uncle has not come back yet. I just called him. If your uncle had come back, you would not have so much pressure. Alas. Zhu Qingwen let out a long sigh and said, forget it. Let's not talk about this. How long are you going to stay in Shanghai this time? I don't know yet, Qin Sheng said. He really had not thought about this problem. Zhu Qingwen did not say much. She smiled and said, then don't rush back. There is nothing to do when you go back. Just take it as a quiet time in Shanghai. Maybe there will be a result about your family soon. It will not be too late to go back then. Qin Sheng thought for a moment and said casually, I'm a little worried about the Chang'an people. If we are not there, I am afraid that they will be too unscrupulous. At that time, the Chang and people will be in a mess. Will it make the Qin family worse? Zhu Qingwen chuckled and said, don't worry. You don't have to worry about this at all. First, those people are not as anxious as you think. At the same time, don't look down on them. After so many years in Suzhou City, they have this awareness. Second, even if they do something, it will never have anything to do with the Qin family. Many people are watching. As long as you don't interfere with the Chang and people's affairs, it will be fine. Qin Sheng nodded silently. He believed that small aunt could see further than them. After all, small uncle and small uncle were behind her. They stood at a high enough position. At noon, as soon as the meal was on the table, the old lady asked everyone to sit down for fear that her grandson and granddaughter-in-law would be hungry. Of course, Qin Sheng sat beside the old lady. Before he moved his chopsticks, he heard the whistle outside. Qin Sheng knew that small uncle's husband was coming. So he stood up in a hurry and went out with Lin Su to welcome him. Before coming to the old lady's place, Qin Sheng had already told Lin Su that small uncle would also come today. Lin Su was somewhat nervous. After all, it was the first time for her to meet small uncle, and it was also the first time for her to have such a close contact with a governor on such an occasion, who was in charge of Shanghai, the most economically developed city in China. Qin Sheng smiled and said that there was no need to think too much. Today was just a family gathering, and small uncle was just small uncle. Although Qin Sheng said so, Lin Su still felt a little nervous. Downstairs of the old foreign-style house, Zhu Zhangshan had already gotten out of the car and walked to the old foreign-style house unhurriedly. The driver and the secretary were still waiting in the car. They had long been familiar with this place. Zhu Zhangshan looked up and saw Qin Sheng coming out with his girlfriend. He smiled and waved his hand. This time, Zhu Zhangshan looked quite approachable. Qin Sheng called softly, Uncle. Zhu Zhangshan nodded with a smile and patted Qin Sheng's shoulder gently. Then he looked at Lin Su, who also called him Uncle. Of course, he knew Qin Sheng's girlfriend. After all, his wife, Zhu Qingwen, often mentioned her. This beautiful girl was relatively reserved in front of Qin Sheng, just like most girls. It seemed that there was no difference between them, except that they were beautiful and had a good temperament. However, Zhu Zhangshan also knew that she was outstanding enough and was now the helmsman of Lin's group. If she had not been absolutely powerful, Lin's group would not have handed over such a big group to this girl. Therefore, Zhu Zhangshan quite appreciated Qin Sheng's girlfriend. "You are Lin Su, right?" Zhu Zhangshan asked very kindly. Now Lin Su was already half a member of the Zhu family. In ordinary days, when she met the old lady and Zhu Qingwen, she would call them grandmother and small aunt. Therefore, when she met Zhu Zhangshan, she naturally called him small uncle. Otherwise, she might not be used to calling him other names. Lin Su was no stranger to this small uncle. It was just that she had seen him on TV and online news before. This was the first time that she had seen him in person. His natural aura made her feel a little restrained. She could only smile and nod. "Don't be nervous. I am just your small uncle," Zhu Zhangshan said with a smile. Of course, he understood Lin Su. At this time, Qin Sheng helped to resolve the situation. "Uncle, lunch is ready. We're just waiting for you. Grandmother and small aunt are already waiting." "Then let's go in," Zhu Zhangshan said with a smile. Then he strode inside. Qin Sheng gently held Lin Su's hand and then joked in a low voice. "Our big President Lin can also be nervous." "You still say that?" Lin Su stared at Qin Sheng and said. She hoped that when she met Qin Sheng's uncle again in the future, she would not be so nervous. Maybe in the future, she would meet more important people like him. It seemed that she needed to continue to train. The atmosphere of lunch was very warm. Zhu Zhangshan behaved very casually at the dining table. He did not dare to put on airs in front of the old lady. It should be known that when he first talked to Zhu Qingwen, old master Zhu had a lot of opinions about this. The old lady said a lot of good things about him. Therefore, Zhu Zhangshan had been very filial to the old lady all these years. The old lady was also very satisfied with his son-in-law, especially after Zhu Zhangshan went further and further away. The old lady felt that she did not choose the wrong person back then. It was just that Zhu Zhangshan became busier and busier, so the number of times he came to see the old lady became a little less. The old lady did not have any opinion about this, because business was more important. With Zhu Zhangshan around, not to mention Lin Su, even Qin Sheng did not talk much. Fortunately, the old lady and Zhu Qingwen did not want to make the atmosphere awkward, so they took the initiative to talk about a lot of topics. Only then did the two young people gradually get used to it. Qin Sheng talked more towards the end. After lunch, Zhu Qingwen and Lin Su accompanied the old lady to chat in the living room. As expected, Zhu Zhangshan called Qin Sheng to the balcony on the second floor. Qin Sheng followed behind Zhu Zhangshan, feeling a little uneasy. This was the first time he faced this small uncle alone. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.